Game 2. The Baltimore Orioles versus the New York Yankees.
19 hours into the dramatic conclusion to Game 1. The Orioles and the Yankees are right back out at Yankee City for Game 3 of the American League Championship Series. The question is, what can they do for an encore?
But Game 1 had everything: drama, excitement, strategy, and of course, controversy. Against the wall in right field in the 8th inning, Tony Tarasco reaching up to catch what he thought was a catchable fly ball off the bat of Derek Jeter when a young fan reached out and touched it. Now this young fan finds himself, at least in many quarters, the toast of New York City, on the cover not only of the tabloids but even of the august New York Times. Welcome back to Yankee Stadium, everybody. Bob Costas with Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker, and Hall of Famer Joe Morgan. We'll talk about the pitchers, David Wells for the Orioles, David Cohn for the Yankees, in a moment. But first, let's look back at the controversy and take a look at the play once more. You've all seen it many times by now, but since it happened live, you've probably seen it in slow motion every time. Let's watch it from 3 different angles at real speed, which is, of course, the speed at which Richie Garcia is looking at it, the umpire, trying to make what seems, in retrospect, an easy call, but might not have been such an easy call with the naked eye. There's no question he missed the call, but this is what he was looking at the time. And there's Tarasco all over him. Eventually, Davey Johnson would be tossed out of the game. Now, since then, Richie Garcia has had plenty of opportunity to watch various replays, so we asked him how would he call it now that he's seen it.
The call probably would have been called fan interference, and then the plate umpire would have had to place the runners, where they would have made, or I could have called the guy out. Either one of the two, But that's, to say one or the other is very difficult because I didn't see it and I didn't react to it.
So I was right up on the front step, and then when I saw the fan reaching over the thing, I was gone. I get out there pretty quick, and I was just wondering why there was no interference call. That's all. I was wondering about his positioning on it, and I was wondering if he was watching the fielder and not the flight of the ball, which you got to watch the flight of the ball, otherwise you won't see what happens.
The funny thing about it is I'm the one that brought it up. I'm the one that spoke to security before the game, and I said I want to make sure that the people are not allowed to stand there. They're not allowed to walk in that area during the game.
If I was 12-year-old and I was at the Yankee Stadium, the ball was coming my way, I would do everything in my power to try and catch the ball. In the same breath, you don't make the kid out to be a hero, but you don't down him for it. It's just something that happens.
I'm telling you, coming years, we're going to have a lot of gloves out, and a lot more than 12-year-olds. There's going to be a lot of gloves hanging all over the fence.
Davey Johnson in a surprisingly good mood a few moments before Game 2. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are I don't see how he could possibly call him out. He could have called it an extra base hit, but even he can't do that. The home plate umpire has to decide where the runner would have ended up had the ball not been caught. So the only play he could have called was fan interference and then let the home umpire place him someplace.
Well, I thought it was an out yesterday. I thought Tarasco could have made the catch. I stayed up all night thinking how I might have played it. I've looked at this thing 25 times. It was an out yesterday, and it's an out today.
Get a grip on yourself. Jim Gray is down beyond the wall in right field. Davey Johnson's protest of the game was not based on Rich Garcia's mistaken judgment. He based it on the fact that fans are not supposed to be that close to the wall. There's a buffer between the wall and the first row of seats, and Yankee security was supposed to keep fans away from there. Jim Gray is standing there now. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Bob. This was the scene last night. All the confusion. Young Jeffrey Maier stuck his glove out. The ball hit it, and then there was complete pandemonium. Well, the Yankees in Major League Baseball have taken some additional procedures today to try and prevent this from reoccurring. They have added 15 security guards all along the outfield wall, both in left field and right field. You cannot enter or exit the stadium except for in between innings. There's about a 15-foot buffer zone. If you try and come up here with your glove and interrupt play in any manner, they're going to take the glove away from you and put these around your arms. So the security precautions that are in place today is what the Orioles had hoped for yesterday, and the Yankees are trying to guarantee today. Bob?
Jim Gray, always the enterprising reporter, bringing props along with him. Let's just hope the security guards aren't anxious for a souvenir and they don't try to reach out and make a play. We're back with the lineups, the pitchers, and the first pitch in a minute. It's not quite as beautiful a day as what we experienced yesterday for Game 1. In fact, there was more rain overnight, a steady drizzle for several hours, and the outfield is in worse condition than yesterday. Game time temperature 63 degrees. The lineup for the Orioles is exactly the same as yesterday, except for the number 9 spot. Chris Hoyles catches and bats ninth. Mark Parent went 1 for 5 in a starting role, hitting in the 9th spot and catching yesterday. David Cone, the 1994 Cy Young Award winner in the American League when pitching for Kansas City. A combined 18-8 between the Blue Jays and the Yankees a year ago. 7-2 this year. But those figures are misleading. Much of it compiled before mid-May, when an aneurysm just beneath his right armpit sent him to the disabled list. Most people thought at least for the rest of the season, and they wondered about the rest of his career. Remarkably, he was able to come back and throw 7 no-hit innings at Oakland on Labor Day. But since that appearance, his earned run average is almost 6, and he really has not been in a groove since then, Joe.
Well, the one thing that he did do last time, Bob, he started the game off strong. He was throwing his fastball, tailing it in, and he had a good slider. Once he got a couple of men on base, he started to struggle. He went through 3 innings without a problem, but when he got men on base, he struggled. And I think that's something we have to look for today.
The defense behind him now.
And we've talked about the fact that Paul O'Neill has not had a base hit in the playoffs, but the real key is his defense. He's not running well, which puts a lot of pressure on Bernie Williams in the balls, on any balls hit to right center field. So he could hurt them defensively more than he has hurt them offensively.
Joe Torre said he gave consideration to starting Darryl Strawberry in right.
Number 9.
I think that was good consideration.
But Straw will come off the bench if he plays at all today. Cecil Fielder is the Yankee DH. Brady Anderson, 50 homers for the year, 3 in the postseason, including 1 yesterday off Andy Pettitte. Those 12 home runs leading off the game broke the mark set in 1973 by Bobby Bonds. 2-0. Dale Scott is the plate umpire. Mike Riley at first. Dan Morrison at second. Rocky Rowe at third. Rich Garcia has the left field line today. Larry Barnett in right. Swinging on the 2-0 pitch. Anderson fouls it out of play. David Cone was not effective in Game 1 of the division series against Texas. Worked 5 innings, gave up 6 runs, took the loss. He also didn't pitch to his own standards in the division series last year against Seattle. He has plenty of postseason experience with the Mets, with the Blue Jays, and with the Yankees, and there you see his overall record. But he's one of the game's most intense competitors. 2-2 to Anderson. And he is burning to turn in a classic David Cone-style performance today.
Well, the first couple of fastballs that Brady Anderson has had whacks at have both been in the 90-mile-an-hour range, maybe even a little bit more. He's been tardy on 2 of them. But as you said, Cone really in postseason thus far, Bob, has not been sharp.
A full count to Anderson. Cone throws that fastball with late movement. He throws a biting slider when he's right, might be the best slider in the league. Mixes in the occasional curve and changeup, often from different arm angles. Struck him out.
That is the first time I've seen him pitch Brady Anderson like he's a 50 home run a year man. He threw him a 3-2 changeup. I mean, this is a beautiful pitch. Look at it. When the bottom falls out, Brady way out in front. Normally they come with a fastball, but I think you have to give Brady Anderson the respect that he deserves. You have to do this to him occasionally.
Tells you a little bit something about David Cone here in the opening inning, Joe, that he's got a little bit of confidence in something off speed.
So Anderson is dispatched to the dugout. Zeal steps in. A called strike, 1-1 to him. 1 for 6 in yesterday's 11-inning game. 25 homers and 99 RBIs combined between the Phillies and the Orioles this year. The 2-1 pitch misses. 3-1. Game 3 tomorrow night at Camden Yards. Jimmy Key, the Yankee left-hander. Mike Mussina, the Oriole right-hander who won 19. Zeal with a 1-out walk. And the boos, of course, are for Roberto Alomar. This will not only relent, but will be replaced by cheers when we get to Baltimore. But as long as the Orioles stay alive in the postseason, he's going to hear it in every opposing ballpark. Tough day yesterday. 1 for 6 with 3 strikeouts plus an error. Rolled foul. Although, Joe, he made a couple of very fine plays in the field.
Well, he made 2 real nice plays. One, he retired Cecil Fielder on a smash up the middle. The other, he just made a diving stop. He was not able to get Jeter, but he made a fine play.
He's never really solved David Cone. 8 for 47 in his career against him. That's 170. What Alomar did was, of course, reprehensible, spitting in the face of John Hirschbeck. When the American League levied such a lenient penalty, however, a 5-game suspension, not to be served until next April, that really set off the public furor. Hopped back of second base, Jeter out, Bernie Williams in shallow center for the catch. It's really the combination of the act and the slap on the wrist penalty that has made this such an issue through this postseason. And which has refocused attention on the issue of the whole relationship between players and umpires, and has led to an announced summit next month in Phoenix called by Acting Commissioner Bud Selig, involving management people, players' representatives, and umpires, to establish what Selig has referred to as a code of conduct, and maybe to codify how penalties will be meted out, in what fashion, what the appeals process will be. Palmeiro, 3 for 3 with a couple of walks. Had a home run yesterday. One of the game's unsung great players. In Chicago, overshadowed by Ryne Sandberg. In Texas, overshadowed by Nolan Ryan. To Baltimore, where there's Cal Ripken and others. But year after year, look at the numbers. One of the best pure hitters in baseball. Zeal at first with 2 out. 1-1.
Talked yesterday about his play at first base too, Bob. He's a very fine fielding first baseman, and a guy who always seems to get the job done. And we've seen him do it many, many times. Runner at second base. He's one of those kinds of hitters, despite the fact that he's got power, is willing to give himself up to try and pull a ground ball anyway to hit something on the right side to move a runner.
Two balls and a strike.
The one thing I think the Yankees are going to make sure of, and that is that they stay away from Palmeiro. What they will do is come off the plate inside if they get ahead in the count. But they do not want him to be able to pull pitches on the inside part of the plate.
Pulls this one foul.
I think they're a little lucky there. That was a change, a little off speed, and he got a little bit out in front. See, the target's actually outside. The pitch comes inside, but because it was an off-speed pitch, Palmeiro was out in front, and he says, how far did I hit that one?
Zeal inching away from first, and the 2-2 delivery. The count goes full, so Zeal will take off.
That was a splitter that time from David Cohn. You could see it really dive right at the end, Bob. Get a look at it one more time. You could almost see him from the center field camera. You could almost see him put that baseball, jam it in between his first two fingers, and then dropping low out of the strike zone. I wouldn't be surprised to see it again here, 3-2.
There goes Zeal, and the pitch is rolled foul. And it got a piece of John Stearns in the first base coach's box.
Well, John Stearns was a catcher, but he's helping the runner. And they called him Bad Dude when he played over at the Mets. John Bad Dude Stearns.
Former football player, University of Colorado, I think.
I guess that's why they called him Bad Dude.
Another 3-2 pitch. And a walk. The second issued in the inning by Cohn. So an RBI chance for Bobby Bonilla now.
Well, this is what Joe Torre is afraid of. You cannot help the Baltimore Orioles by putting men on base, because someone will pop it out of the ballpark. And you can see this is clearly off the plate inside. If you help them, you're really asking for trouble.
Zeal at second, Palmeiro at first. Each aboard on a walk. Bonilla was 0 for 4 yesterday. Left the game with a bruised shoulder after crashing into the fence trying to make a catch. And no sooner had Tony Tarasco replaced him in right than all heck broke loose on the fly ball by Jeter, which was ruled a home run. Cohn falls behind 2-0.
And again, Bob, he's been behind 4 of the 5 hitters that he's faced here in the opening inning. Pitch count getting up around 25 now.
Check swing foul. Speaking of pitch counts, Mariano Rivera, yesterday's winner, threw 40 pitches in 2 innings of work. And Joe Torre told me before the game, there is no way Rivera pitches today, regardless of the game situation. Now remember, had there not been a rainout on Tuesday night, today would be the off day for the short trip to Baltimore. Rivera just a spectator, apparently, for Game 2. But 3-1.
And watching Cohn, Bob, it seems to me that he's really making a conscious effort to keep the ball down. We have not seen a pitch above the belt. He's missing low, or he's missing off the plate low. He is making a conscious effort to keep the ball down on these Orioles hitters. I think he should.
And now the bases are loaded on 3 first-inning walks.
But David Cohn, one of his better pitches is the high fastball. I mean, he can get away with having them chase fastballs out of the strike zone and up. But he is making an effort to keep the ball down. So I think when he's concentrating so hard, I think it's like throwing darts. He's keeping the ball down. I think he has to just let the ball go because he has good stuff. And there you see Joe Torre saying, now the bases are loaded. Now where does he go?
Loaded for Cal Ripken with Eddie Murray on deck. Except for that one miraculous start against Oakland. He really has not resembled the David Cohn we've come to know over several seasons since his return. Ball 1.
You know, and in talking with Joe Torre during the series against Texas, Bob, he said that more or less this is kind of a spring training season now for David Cohn. Following the surgery, coming back, trying to get himself in gear again. He said it's starting all over for him.
Two and 0.
And as Joe said, he's downstairs on everything, whether he's making a concerted effort to do that or not. That's where he's missing. Better to miss down there than upstairs with a breaking ball especially. But sooner or later, you got to get one around there to have somebody offer.
Now a dangerous pitch coming to Ripken, who was 2 for 5 with a double yesterday and is hitting .435 in the postseason. Took a rip and fouled it back.
Well, I think that's what David Cone is going to have to do. He's just going to have to let it go. I mean, he's going to have to say, see how good my fastball is today. Let me see if they can hit it. Because it doesn't do you any good to continue to miss down low and stay behind in the count. And he has had some success against Ripken in his career. Ripken is 2 for 21.
The Orioles with the bases loaded and 2 out on the top of the first, and a 2-1 pitch coming from Cone to Ripken. Misses, 3-1. Girardi held it there in hopes of getting the call from Dale Scott.
Well, here's that last offering on Ripken. And again, it's low. It's a good call by Dale Scott, despite what you hear from the fans here at Yankee Stadium. The pitch was downstairs. That's his 29th pitch in the inning.
And a pitch away from walking a run home. And this ball is a bullet to left, but foul. Well, he was sitting on a 3-1 pitch, but couldn't straighten it out.
Well, he got lucky there, meaning David Cone. He should have thrown that same pitch 2-1 when there was a little doubt in Ripken's mind. There's no doubt in Ripken's mind that he's going to get a 3-1 fastball. He just happens to get out in front of it and pulls it foul.
Zeal from third, Palmeiro from second, Bonilla from first. They'll all be off on the 3-2 pitch. And they'll have to come back.
There's a gutsy call by Chris Hoyles on that pitch. I should say on Joe Girardi, that was a split-fingered fastball, 3-2. He's walked 3, and with a chance to force a run here with a walk, he throws the splitter.
There's nothing a manager hates worse than walks.
Another 3-2 pitch, and a drive down the left field line with Raines in pursuit, and a foul ball again.
Joe Torre would not nearly be as upset as he is if these base runners had all reached base by hitting a single. But again, he gets lucky because Ripken's hitting these balls hard, and this one just starts to hook right at the end, and it ends up in foul territory.
Joe Torre's starters have frayed his nerves in this postseason, but his bullpen has saved him time after time. He really hasn't gotten an outstanding start yet through 5 games from any of his starters. This is in the air to center. Bernie Williams has it. You can almost hear the sigh of relief all over Yankee Stadium. 3 walks. None of them come home. The Orioles leave the bases loaded, and the Yankees come up in the first. David Wells will face this batting order for the Yankees. Jeter, who hit 9th in Game 1, moves up to the top against the left-hander, followed by Raines and Bernie Williams, who is emerging as a star on the national stage of this postseason. Cecil Fielder, the cleanup man, in DH. Tino Martinez at first base. Mariano Duncan up to the number 6 spot, with the struggling Paul O'Neill dropped to 7th. Charlie Hayes in favor of Wade Boggs, or instead of Wade Boggs, at third base against the left-hander, and Joe Girardi bats 9th and catches.
And David Wells, a hard-throwing left-hander with a pretty decent breaking ball. Change of pace from time to time. 13-5 in his career against the Yankees. 1-1 in 1996.
Jeter was 4 for 5 yesterday. Cuts and misses. The defense behind Wells.
Surhoff, Anderson, and Bonilla left to right. Zeal, Ripken, Alomar, and Palmeiro on the infield. Chris Hoyles doing the catching today. And David Wells pitching.
A ball and a strike. The sun is shining brightly now. Today's start an hour earlier than yesterday. And the sun, especially in left field, could be a factor.
You're right, Bob. And in watching the Yankee outfielders in the top half of the inning, Raines particularly, looked like he may be having problems out there.
A liner to right center. It drops for a hit. And Jeter, who was batting .500 for the postseason before that at-bat, continues to sizzle.
Well, David Wells doesn't waste any time normally. He will come right after you. He makes you swing the bat. He uses his fastball, and this is a fastball. He gets too much of the plate, almost in the middle of the plate and down. And Jeter does what he does best. It's line drives to right center field and right side of the diamond.
When Jeter got aboard in a situation where he could run yesterday, he immediately took off and stole second. With the exception of Mike Mussina, all of the Orioles starters are relatively easy to run on. And neither Parent nor Hoyles had a particularly good percentage throwing out would-be base stealers. Not going, and a strike to Raines. He doesn't think so.
Now, Timmy thought the pitch was low, and when you're speaking of Hoyles, he also has a sore shoulder, so I wouldn't be surprised if they try to test him early and often today. And there's the pitch. Could have been a little low, but you see Hoyles raise it up. Usually that will be the indicator what the catcher does.
Tosses over to first. He has a reputation as a Yankee killer. 13-5 for his career against the Yankees. Used to be with the Blue Jays and the Tigers, then over to the National League for a while before coming to Baltimore. 9-1 for his career in this ballpark with an ERA under 3 at Yankee Stadium. Left-handers in general are thought to fare better here, and Wells in particular has done well. Oh, 1 pitch, a line drive over the leaping Alomar. And stopping at second is Jeter. So back-to-back singles in the bottom of the first, and the Yankees have 2 on with nobody out.
This fastball is really tattooed by Raines, and almost a great leaping catch by Alomar. Once it got by him, Jeter had ideas of going to third, but wisely held at second. Here it is again. He hit this ball very hard, and Alomar almost with a leaping backhanded catch. Anderson quickly to the ball to hold Jeter at second.
And a hero's welcome for Bernie Williams. The game-winning homer in the 11th, a towering drive into the second deck and left, was his 4th postseason homer, as you see, in 5 games. Hiking his average against Texas and Baltimore to .474. He hit .305 for the regular year with 29 home runs. 2 of those 29 homers were hit off David Wells. Ball 1.
It will be interesting to see how the Orioles attack Bernie Williams from the right side. He hit the ball out over the plate for the home run yesterday. Does Wells thinks he's throwing hard enough to get inside is the question. He likes the ball out over the plate.
Cecil Fielder on deck. Low 2-0. As we mentioned, Wells has generally done well against the Yankees, and especially here, but his last time out in this ballpark, he faced David Cone, and both of them were hit very hard. Cone coughed up a 6-1 lead. The Orioles eventually won the game 10-9, neither involved in the decision. There's a called strike. Wells started game 1 of the division series when the Orioles got the jump on the Indians at Camden Yards, worked 6 2/3 and got the win. Worked 7 innings to a no decision in game 4. A game the Orioles eventually won in 12 at Jacobs Field to wrap up the series. His 2-1 pitch coming to Bernie Williams, but now he steps off. Wells was just 11-14 for the season. And his ERA was 5.14. The Orioles, though, often have enough offense to overcome that kind of pitching. Three and one.
You know, in difference to Andy Pettit, who we saw yesterday, David Wells is one of those left-handers that has that rider that'll run away from a right-handed batter, which normally all left-handers do have. We talked about Pettit yesterday because he threw so many cutters in that game, balls that run into a right-hander, but Wells has that fastball that'll run away.
And a liner to right, a third consecutive hit. Jeter being waved home by Willie Randolph. He scores. The Yankees lead 1-0, and Raines slides in at third.
As I said before, he likes the ball out over the plate. You can see that pitch is out over the plate, and he lines it to right field for a base hit. They'd come inside twice, but then they go away, and that's Bernie Williams' strength right there. He can handle the ball better out there. He can either pull it or go the other way if he wants. And this is good base running here by Jeter. Right away, he's off and running. He already knew how deep Benil was. He knew where Alomar was playing. He did not have to wait for the ball to go through the infield.
3 straight singles, all of them hit sharply. Now Fielder, 8 for 21 lifetime against Wells. Half of those 8 hits for the distance. 4 homers against him for his career. And a called strike. Cone walked 3 in the first and escaped. The Orioles left the bases loaded. Wells yields 3 straight singles and is burned. A run home and maybe more. First and third, nobody out.
Wells will continue to come after you until you knock him out of the ball game. All the hits have come off of fastballs.
A bouncing ball to Alomar. Short hops it, flips to Ripken for 1. Lots of time with Fielder running to complete the double play, but Raines scores to make it 2-0 New York.
I tell you, this is not an easy hop for Roberto Alomar at second. This is another one of those in-between hops. We saw about 4 or 5 of them in yesterday's game. Watch this ball. That's not an easy hop for him. That's not that short hop. He makes a nice play. Easy toss to Ripken, and then Ripken's throwing plenty of time. Look at this hop. That's a tough hop. That's a tough in-between hop for any infielder. I don't care who it is. He played it nicely, and they turned the 4-6-3 double play.
Now the base is empty as Tino Martinez bats and takes high for ball 1.
You're right about that play, Bob. Any infielder will tell you, I either want to catch the ball on the short hop just as it's coming off the ground, or the big hop when it's up at its highest point.
Just like yesterday, the sun playing peekaboo from behind the clouds. Left center field. Anderson and Surhoff, and it's B.J. Surhoff who makes the catch. But on 3 singles, the Yankees put together a couple of runs and give David Cone a little breathing room as he heads out for the second.
Hear about how tough the sun can be here in New York in October. Tim Raines, just before he went out to left field, there you see him. Tough sun field, left and center. Paul O'Neill and Bobby Bonilla, no problems in right. There you get a look at it. That's what they're looking into on fly balls.
Cone back to work in the second, facing Eddie Murray and starting him with ball 1.
Let's see if Cone changes his approach. He has a 2-run lead now. Let's see if he challenges a few more hitters up into the strike zone.
That one was up, and Murray couldn't catch up with it.
Well, he looks like he has a good enough fastball to go up there, but whenever he throws and the ball's low, he doesn't have much on it. He's trying to sink it and take a little off. That's what you want to do. He throws that pitch right by Eddie Murray.
Here's the 1-1. And that's out of play. Murray has homered 3 times in his career against Cone.
Well, that's the Cone that I think can be more effective, using the fastball up and then going to the splitter or the change. You get them looking to speed up their bats to get to the fastball, then you can throw the change up or the splitter and get them to chase it down low.
Fouled off, and it holds at 1-2.
He's got that little diving fastball, Joe, and that splitter that runs down and away. He can turn that fastball over to a left-handed batter. I think that's what it was to Murray that time. Previous pitch, the splitter. This time, there you see the rotation on that ball. That's that sinking fastball that he'll throw away from a left-handed batter. One more time. Down and away. Murray reaching for it.
Another 1-2 pitch. And a check swing foul. At age 40, Eddie Murray hit .260 with 22 home runs and 79 RBIs. And reached the 500 home run plateau. Stands at .501 lifetime right now. Him out. Second strikeout for Cone. The Orioles fan a lot. They went down 10 times in an 11-inning game yesterday, but in Game 4, which lasted 12 innings in the division series at Jacobs Field against Cleveland, overlooked in all the excitement of the upset by the wild card Orioles over the Indians, the Orioles fan 23 times in a 12-inning game. B.J. Surhoff bouncing it to Martinez. A tough hop, but he handles it for the unassisted putout.
Another nice play there by an infielder. Martinez has gone 82 games from the regular season without an error. He had 82 straight games to close the season without making an error. Now watch. See, he charges this. He gets it on the in-between hop, too, though. They're catching him in-between hops. Again, that's the toughest hop. The short hop is what you want, or the big hop. But they're fighting it and taking it on the in-between hop. And a lot of times when a guy throws a sinker, you do not really have a choice because the ball has so much overspin on it.
Now Chris Hoyles. A lineup where the number 9 hitter has 25 homers, and the leadoff man has twice that with 50. In fact, in this lineup, B.J. Surhoff, who was just retired by Cone, has the lowest home run total, and he has 21. These 9 hitters combined hit 258 home runs this year. If you're scratching your head, since the Orioles had a record 257 as a team, you got to figure in Murray and Zeal's totals from other clubs, which didn't count toward the Oriole team total. Hoyles rolls out. In contrast to the first, it's an easy second for Cone. 2-0 New York. Derek Jeter with the 8th inning home run, thanks in part to this young man, 12-year-old Jeff Maier, whose seats have improved considerably from down the right field line to just above the Yankee dugout. There with his sister and his parents. We're told they are guests of the New York Daily News. He is the toast of the town. Of course, had an Oriole hit that ball and had it been a Yankee beneath it, I'm sure a kid's instincts would have been the same. Hey, look at this. I got a chance to catch a ball at a big league game. And then had he interfered, instead of being the toast of the town, he would have been toast.
He just told his sister, hey, be quiet. If it wouldn't have been for me, you wouldn't even be here today.
Backhanded by Ripken on the Duncan roller. Long throw, got him.
That is one heck of a play by Ripken. And a very close call at first base. No argument from Pedro Cardenal. Here it is again. Ripken with a patented backhanded play for his shortstop. Sets himself, gets off the throw, and a very, very close play at first. One more time. Here it is again. Backhanded play, long throw. I'll tell you what, tough play at first, tough call there. And to be honest about it, I thought Duncan beat it.
I agree with you.
But who cares if I'm honest or not? He's out.
Mike Riley's opinion, the one that counts. 1 out in the second for O'Neill, who taps it foul. One more look at it.
This is a close play at first base. It really is. It's a heck of a play by Ripken. He makes a nice backhanded play, the long throw, and it looked to me like Duncan beat it.
Well, the surprising thing, Bob, is that Jose Cardinal did not argue, the first base coach.
Yeah, he didn't say a thing, Joe.
A ball and a strike. One more thing about the play last night, and then we'll let it go and put it into the history books. The kid is apparently a winning youngster, has a nice smile, excited about it all. He's been on all the talk shows this morning. It's on the front page of all the newspapers, and you can't deny his exuberance. A liner off O'Neill's bat actually split the bat in two, but there's a base hit for him. And there's something about a kid taking his glove to the ball game, playing hooky from school for an October World Series or playoff game. You've got to have a heart of stone not to feel affection for that. But that having been said, all these people who are calling him a hero, if that ball had been hit by an Oriole and exactly the same play had happened, or if Garcia had seen it differently and called interference on the play, and Yankee fans then said, well, at least it would have hit the wall and they took a double away from us at least, and they call the guy out, then it wouldn't be so cute.
You're right.
And the thing has become excessive with all the attention that it's gotten, and after all, you just don't want people interfering and affecting the course of the ball game, no matter how cute they are.
Let me add one more thing, Bob, and then I'm done with it. If the Yankees go on and win this thing, this kid probably winds up with a full share in a ring.
And might deserve it as much as you deserve your share in a ring from the '64 Cardinals.
You love my zircon?
Charlie Hayes with an 0-1 count.
Well, maybe that base hit that Paul O'Neill just got will help him for the remainder of the season. That sometimes that first hit is always the toughest. And I'm speaking from experience. Dropped an 0 for 12 on him once in a series.
What series was that?
The Pirates, 79. I'm sure there are others.
Off-speed pitch in for a strike. Okay, I lied. One last thing about the play yesterday.
Oh, we knew that.
It's so typical of sports in the 90s that the kid, who in another setting might have been a Norman Rockwell type character, now is on every talk show, might be hiring an agent for all we know, and the guy who took the ball away from him, little Jeff didn't wind up with the ball, and now says the ball is for sale. It's very valuable. He wants to find out what the market is for it. Innocence lost, and Charlie Hayes gone.
Beautiful curveball there from David Wells. David Wells is basically a fastball pitcher, and he comes after you, and Charlie Hayes is sitting there waiting for that fastball, and he gets an overhand curveball, and he is called out by home plate umpire Dale Scott. And watch this. This is a big overhand curveball. Look at the rotation there. Real good tight spin. Ball drops right off the table. May not have been able to hit that one even if he was looking for it.
I might have had a little problem with that one myself. I was just thinking of that.
So here's Girardi. 2 down and O'Neill at first. Yankees lead at 2-0 bottom of the second. Girardi hit .294 for the year. Alomar to Ripken, and that'll do it in the second. After 2 at Yankee Stadium, game 2 of the LCS. Yankees 2, O's nothing. Its overhead shots are courtesy of the Goodyear Blimp Stars and Stripes, based in Pompano Beach, Florida. At the controls is Captain Larry Chambers from Lighthouse Point, Florida. Here's what I want to know. If there are consecutive games in the same city, why do they bring a different blimp in? These things move at about 2 miles an hour. Wouldn't it just make sense to let the first one just stay up there for a while and refuel? Why are they running a relay race with these things?
I guess you need hours.
Maybe there's a daytime blimp and an evening blimp. Before the game was over last night, it was dark here, remember?
They have their frequent flyer miles the same as anybody else. They build up. They get frequent flyer hours, not miles.
Top of the third, top of the order, and Anderson swings on the first one from Cone. and it drifts into the seats. It's too early to say, but Cone worked a very quick second. He threw 33 pitches in the first and just 9 in a 1-2-3 second. And maybe, emphasize maybe, the Orioles let him off the hook when they had a chance to do some damage in the first, and now have given him a chance to settle in.
I'm going to watch him when he gets up around 80 pitches, though, Bob, if he continues to throw well, because that's about the point he had problem last time.
The 0-1 to Anderson is in there.
I'm sure if he got up around 80 pitches, Joe, and the Yankees still had the lead, Joe Torre would be awfully happy today. Right. And again, it's early. We're only in the third, but from the appearances here, his fastball has got some pop on it today, and he's thrown a couple of very good curveballs.
A ball and 2 strikes. We told you yesterday about Brady Anderson's quantum leap. Last year at 16 home runs, previous career high 21, and then all of a sudden 50 this year. His manager can relate. Davey Johnson hit 43 home runs in 1973 for the Braves as a teammate of Hank Aaron. Never before or after hit more than 18 in a season.
We've always said hitting is contagious. He got over there and watched Hank Aaron and tried to emulate him.
Darrell Evans also hit more than 40 for that team that year, along with Aaron. Girardi back for a look, and it's on the screen.
Good pitch there by Cone. That's the fastball we're talking about, up a little bit and also in. Wasn't much Brady Anderson to do with it, and he tried to pull his arms in to get to the ball, and he ended up popping it up. Now watch where this pitch is. It's supposed to be down and in, but it's up and in right there, and Brady, not a lot he could do with it. It looked like he got there, but there wasn't much he could do with that pitch.
The other thing, too, Joe Girardi, the catcher, never gave up on that ball. There's a lot of room behind home plate here in this ballpark, and he thought he had a chance and almost did.
Full count to Anderson, who struck out to lead off the game.
And we might remember on a 3-2 changeup, this is exactly the same count he had. He threw him a 3-2 changeup, and that has to remain in the back of the hitter's mind.
Reaches the upper deck, but a couple 100 feet foul.
Joe, one of the interesting things about Brady Anderson, and you hear hitters talk so many times to youngsters and younger hitters about not having to hold a bat down on the end, right down on the knob to hit with power. Watch Anderson here. He chokes about 1.5 inches. Look at that.
Well, there's the 4th walk issued by Cone, and he gives it to Anderson leading off in the top of the 3rd. Tomorrow night in primetime at 8 Eastern, NBC Sports continues its coverage of the ALCS. Game 3 with the series shifting to Camden Yards, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on NBC. Todd Zeile, who walked his first time, takes strike 1. Gazing down at third base coach Sam Perlazzo. John Stearns on the lines at first. Perlazzo and Johnson were together in both New York with the Mets and in Cincinnati. Well, this place is teeming with guys who have Met connections. Strawberry and Cone. Gooden in uniform, though not active. Dwight Gooden was 11-7 for the year, including a no-hitter, and did some fine work at midseason for the Yankees. Then his arm went dead late in the year, so he's not on the postseason roster. Eddie Murray, Bobby Bonilla. There's Doc Gooden.
Doc was given the honor of throwing out the first ball today.
Had an MRI a couple of days ago, and they found nothing terribly serious, and they expect him to be back on the team with every chance to be in their rotation next year. But he just didn't have anything left in the last 6-7 weeks of the season.
I think Bobby missed 1.5 years, and you didn't have the arm strength. After you get up to around 150 innings, the arm strength is gone.
2 balls and a strike to Zeal, and Gooden was very understanding about it. He said, I agree with Joe Torre's decision. Right now, I'm not throwing well enough to help the team, and I wouldn't put me on the postseason roster if it was my decision either.
Well, I think he's also appreciative of the fact that he was given an opportunity to pitch again by the Yankees, and you can't say anything bad about them. They gave him the opportunity, and he has to be happy to be here.
George Steinbrenner has a fondness for reclamation projects. 3-1 now to Zeal. Sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. Very few people around baseball would have given Gooden a shot, and for the most part that panned out well.
Matter of fact, Bob, that was the word around baseball. Hands off. Problem.
And Steinbrenner rescued Darryl Strawberry from the St. Paul Saints when nobody else was interested. They may get him. Oh, he dives back safely. Not by much.
This gives you an indication that maybe they were going to play hit and run here. They see the happy feet of Brady Anderson. He starts the wrong way, and the throw doesn't get there in time. You can see he is on the bag when he gets tagged on the elbow. But see, he had started towards second base, but he gets back safely.
He's going, and Zeal with a long drive to left that could tie the game, and it will. On the 3-1 pitch, constantly pitching from behind, finally catches up with Cone. And Todd Zeal really needed that. He ended the regular season in a terrible slump. Just had a few measly singles to show for the postseason up until that swing.
Al, again, Bob, you hit it right on the button. I mean, pitching constantly from behind, sooner or later somebody's going to nail you. And especially if facing this Oriole lineup, I mean, from top to bottom they can hit you, and hit you hard, and hit you deep. And that's what Zeal just did. Here it is one more time. That ball right down the pipe, and he hit it hard. Raines went back, took a token look, and watched it go.
Now a swinging strike to Alomar. Who flied to center his first time up. Greeted by boos each time, but not quite as loud with each passing at bat. The fans here losing some of their taste for it. Fouled off 1-2.
Bob, I still believe that baseball fans are the most forgiving fans in the world. I mean, even after the strike, even after no World Series, the fans were willing to come back and support baseball.
And after Alomar did what he did, as terrible as it was, he couldn't change it. So since then, he's done what he could do. He withdrew his appeal. He issued an abject apology. That's in the seats foul. John Hirschbeck, the umpire, with his wife at his side, issued a public statement saying that he wants to put it behind him, that he accepts Alomar's apology. That doesn't lessen the severity of the incident, but that's about all the respective parties can do at this point.
I think the one thing,
he reaches for this, hits it softly into right, and O'Neill gets there.
I think the one thing that helped the situation here with Alomar, Bob, is the fact that the Yankees won last night. And they're up 1-0, and it does take a little heat off of Alomar. Had that game gone the other way yesterday, it may have been a different story with Alomar today. I'm glad it's getting over with.
The fans in a more forgiving mood with their team ahead 1-0 in the best-of-7 series. Did O'Neill look suspect to you going after that ball in right field, Joe?
Yes, Bob, I was going to make the point that he just barely got there, and that was a routine play for a normal right fielder. I mean, this is a routine play. I mean, it just seemed like he was going to coast in and get it. But watch, right at the end of it, he seems like his legs start to bother him a little bit. See, that's a routine play. But see, right there, he ends up leaning for it. He should have been standing under this ball. But again, as I said in the opening, defense is where he may hurt them the most.
1-1 to Palmeiro. 2 runs home here in the top of the third to tie the game at 2. A walk to Brady Anderson on a 3-2 pitch. And then a 3-1 shot off the bat of Todd Zeal into the lower stands and left to tie it at 2 apiece. Then Alomar flies out. And now the count 2-1 to Palmeiro.
Bob, with a little rain here this morning, and you touched on this earlier, I wonder if the outfield is a little more soggy than it was yesterday.
By all accounts, it's in worse shape than it was for yesterday's Game 1, which had been preceded by a day of torrential rain. It did rain for many hours overnight, although not nearly as hard as it had Tuesday night, which forced the postponement of the scheduled Game 1 Tuesday. But it's a lot softer today for Game 2. Another full count. Well, you said you wanted to see him at 80 pitches. He's getting there in a hurry. He strikes Palmeiro out. That's his third strikeout to go with 4 walks.
This is another change of pace from David Cone right here. Palmeiro way out in front. He's looking for a fastball, and Cone pulls a string on him. Watch it again. This is a very good change of pace.
Well, it had to be a great pitch, Bob, because he took all the changeups that were low in his first at bat.
Bonilla walked his first time. Fastball high, 1-0. Bobby Bowe with the low postseason batting average, as you saw, but he does have a couple of home runs. Hit against Cleveland in the division series. He launched 28 for the year in the course of driving in 116. One and two.
Here's another guy, Joe, that's such an anxious hitter. I mean, a guy that's up there and really wants to drive the ball. Another situation where you may see Cone, and not a bad pitch either, go to a changeup with that splitter again, but a change of pace down low and away, because this guy loves to hit. I mean, he wants to hit you deep every time he's up there.
Lays off, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Side note to last night's controversial play, they had a controversial call in the ball game that in Baltimore, and he hit a grand slam after a walk.
Well, Cone again pulling the string, records consecutive strikeouts to end the inning, but he gives up 2, and it's a brand new game. Earlier, Joe was talking about the troubles Paul O'Neill might be having in right field. Bernie Williams, who might have to cover more ground as a result in center, is well aware of it. Here's Bernie.
Yeah, I've been looking out there a little bit more, but we always keep communicating a lot during the game, and I know the balls that he cannot get to, and he knows the ball that I cannot get to. So we keep talking through the game a lot. So it's gonna be a little bit harder now, because I know he can't be as mobile as I would like him to be.
Derek Jeter starts it in the third against David Wells. 0-1 the count, and now Wells ahead of him, 2 strikes.
You know, and looking at that replay again with Paul O'Neill in right, you could actually see mud coming up out of his shoes and almost water to a certain extent out there. So it really must be soggy and treacherous.
The 0-2 pitch, a fastball in on his hands, lifted into shallow left. Surhoff in, Ripken out, Surhoff for the catch. Surhoff told us before today's game that the fly ball off the bat of Tim Raines, which he lost in the first inning yesterday, actually got lost in the clouds. He looked up into a cloud, and the ball was against the background of that cloud, and he couldn't pick it up. Now Tim Raines, who singled his first time. Yankees got 2 in the first. 3 straight singles started the inning against Wells. The Orioles came back and evened it on Zeal's homer in the third with a man aboard.
Let's take another look at this play in right field. Now watch this camera work. We'll get a chance to watch. Now watch the top of his glove. The ball actually hits the top of his glove before it goes in. Look at that. Great picture there. 2-0 to Raines.
Tim hit 9 home runs this year, all of them left-handed. Two and one. David Wells was coveted by the Yankees prior to this season. One story had them possibly offering Mariano Rivera to the Reds for him. When they didn't get him, they went out after Kenny Rogers as a free agent. His opponent today, David Cone, was the focal point of a big bidding war between Peter Angelos and George Steinbrenner, two of the most free-spending owners in all of baseball. Could have shifted the balance of power in the American League East, but Cone opted to stay with the Yankees. These two clubs have the 2 highest payrolls in baseball. In fact, the 4 remaining teams vying for the World Series, in the air to right, Bonilla going back, shy of the track, reaches up to make the catch for the second out. The 4 remaining teams, the Yankees, the Orioles, the Braves, and the Cardinals, have 4 of the 5 highest payrolls in baseball. The Yankees are first, the Orioles are second, the Braves are fourth, the Cardinals are fifth, and the Indians, who had the best overall record in the American League, were third. So when they say that you can buy a pennant, and when they say that the poorer teams cannot be competitive, even if that wasn't always true in the era of free agency, even if the Players Association for many years had a better point than the owners, it may now have reached the point, until some reforms kick in, where the clubs in the smaller markets cannot consistently contend. And really the way you define a smaller market isn't so much city size, it's circumstances. Baltimore becomes a large market by virtue of Camden Yards. Cleveland might as well have been a small market when they had the lousy ballpark. When they got Jacobs Field, they became a big market. Bernie Williams behind on the count 0-2. He singled his first time up and drove home a run.
Talked earlier about David Wells having a very good breaking ball. Watch the rotation. Watch the spin on this curveball. It actually winds up in the dirt. Here's what Bernie Williams sees. Low breaking ball dug out by Hoyles. But when Wells is right, he throws hard and he's got a very good curve. There's another. You know, Bob, to finish up a little story on David Wells, when he was pitching with the Blue Jays, it was surprising that he left there in the first place, but he and Cito Gaston didn't see eye to eye on a number of occasions. And I remember a particular game in Milwaukee where Gaston left him out in the game. I mean, to take a real battering. He left him out there for about 14 or 15 runs because Wells had complained his start before. And Gaston said, well, one way or another, I'm going to show you who's running the show here. And I remember that game because Wells was standing out there, not saying it, but you could see in his eyes, please get me out of here, man. Get me out. Every time I watch this guy pitch, in the back of my mind, I think this is the way Oscar Madison would dress if he was pitching the game.
Or Mickey Lolich.
Yeah, somebody. No. But that's the way he always is. Always. Got that big old uniform top, loose fitting.
Well, kind of a throwback guy. He says, hey, look, I'm not going to hit the Nautilus machine in the offseason. The offseason is for hanging around with my friends, and I'll get myself into reasonable shape to pitch once we get down to Florida. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Fouled off. Wells grew up in California, but as an avid Yankee fan, idolizing Babe Ruth, who obviously is way before his time, but they say that in grade school and junior high, half the reports he handed in when you had to write a biography of a famous person, it was about the Babe. So perhaps he was just trying to reach the same sort of dimensions. Monument to the Sultan of Swat. And another 1-2 pitch. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
I've always liked this guy. I mean, when you talk to him, he tells you anything you want to know. He doesn't hold back. I mean, if there's a problem with him personally, with a manager, I don't care what it is. He's out in front with you all the time, and he's always been that way. I've always liked this guy. I really have.
33 years old, 6'4", listed at 225. The other players call him Boomer. Boomer Wells. With 2 outs and nobody on in the third, the 2-2 to Bernie Williams, and the count runs out full. Game 2 is tied at 2. It took 11 to decide Game 1, and this fella did it, Bernie Williams, with a homer off Randy Myers. Davey Johnson, by the way, told us everybody, including Myers, who pitched an inning and 2/3 plus the at-bat by Williams, which ended the game, everybody available, because Myers threw only 16 pitches. In contrast to Mariano Rivera, who worked 2 innings for the Yanks, but had to uncork 40 pitches.
Not only that, they're down 1-0.
Williams with a 2-out walk. First walk issued by Wells. And here's how last night's marathon ended. Myers leaves that slider out over the plate about letter high, and Williams just launches it, a towering drive into the mezzanine deck.
The impressive thing to me, Bob, is he didn't even sneak a peek. He hit it, and usually you look down and trot a few steps, and then you want to see exactly how far it would go. But he just dropped his head and started that lonely journey around the bases.
He's not a guy who you'd expect to posture. He doesn't strut. He's not an in-your-face guy. Cecil Fielder takes a ball.
Are you trying to say Uke is?
Well,
Go ahead and say it.
in Uke's
Don't
case,
hold back.
you know, if I were you, Uke, and I touched one off in a situation like that, I might milk it for all it was worth.
That's where I found myself most of the time after I did hit one. Milking something. Off season.
The 1-0 to Fielder. Popped into shallow right. Bonilla coming on. And the Yankees are done in the third. Still a 2-2 game. Back to the Bronx after this. Back to Yankee Stadium and on to the fourth. 2 runs, 4 hits. No errors for New York. 2-1-0 for Baltimore. Their only hit, the 2-run homer by Todd Zeile in the third. Ripken, Murray, and Surhoff to face David Cone here in the top of the fourth. Ripken flied to center to leave the bases loaded, ending the first, his first time up.
Despite the fact that David Cone has given up only 1 hit, the Yankees have to consider themselves lucky. He's walked 4, and the only walk that really hurt him was the walk to Anderson leading off in the third before Zeile hit the 2-runner.
Even though it's a low run game, relatively speaking, 2-2 in the fourth, with the pitch count being what it is, it would be surprising if David Cone, even if the runs stay where they are, could get Joe Torre into the 6th or 7th. That was his 75th pitch.
Well, he got out of a major jam back in the opening inning with the bases loaded when he fell behind on this guy, when he fell behind on Ripken, and then got him on the fly ball to center. There's that last pitch, a strike right on the outside corner.
On 2-1, here it comes. And Ripken couldn't catch up with it, 2-2.
Again, if Joe Torre gets 5 or 6 innings out of this guy today, I'm sure he's going to be more than happy with the way Cone has been struggling. 76 pitches now. Joe and I talked earlier, 80 pitches, and he's near that mark right now. We're only in the 4th inning, and again, Rivera is not going to work today.
Well, he's going to have to manage a lot differently today than he did yesterday, because he's going to have to go to the bullpen earlier than he really wants to.
And another full count. The 6th full count that Cone has worked to so far. Well, it makes Jeff Nelson and perhaps David Weathers all the more important before they can get to Wetland. The lights are on at Yankee Stadium, although this afternoon has been a mixture of sun and clouds. Hit toward the hole and off the hand of the lunging Charlie Hayes, and Ripken with a huge turn before the ball is pegged back into the infield. Now Cal goes diving on his belly back into first.
Little comedy action here.
A line drive that Hayes couldn't handle.
Now watch, it goes off of Hayes' glove. Derek Jeter had given up on the play. Now he tries to go back and get it. He can't. Ripken made a big turn at first base like he was going to second. Range comes up, fires a strike to second. Watch Mariano Duncan. He just catches it and tags where he thinks Ripken might be. Now he's looking for him. He says, where is he? Here's Ripken. He makes a big turn. He commits himself to second, but then he decides, oh no, I can't make it. And he's thinking they may try to throw to first base. He dives back, and Tino Martinez in the background saying, if you would have thrown it to me, I had him.
People flopping all over the infield. So Ripken is on to start the fourth, and here's Murray, who struck out his first time.
That ball that Ripken hit, Joe, it shows how strong he is. It was a breaking ball almost off the outside corner, and he turned it around and hit it past Hayes at third.
For just the Orioles' second hit. But Cone has hardly been commanding. Lots of trouble with his control. Ahead of Murray, though, 0-2.
He's actually pitched very well to Murray in that the first time up he set him up with a lot of fastballs and then threw the change. And now he comes back with a couple of off-speed pitches, and that's his 80th pitch. So we'll have to see how much he has left on his fastball from here on out. I know the Yankees are watching very closely.
80 pitches with nobody out on the fourth. And Murray lifts this one into shallow center. Jeter back, Williams in, and it falls between them, but they may get the force at second, and they do. Wow. As Ripken had to pull up, anticipating that it would be caught. Well, Jeter, who is very good at going back into the outfield with his back to the plate on pop-ups, had a similar misadventure with Tim Raines in left yesterday. And here, either he or Bernie Williams could have handled it easily, and they both back off and it drops. It doesn't burn them, though. It's not scored as a hit. For Murray, it's a force play at second base.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that he has the ability to go deep into the outfield, and he does that a lot. See, he could get out and catch it, but he's looking for Bernie, and Bernie thinks he's got it because he raises his glove up like he's going to catch it. But that's a problem when you do have as much range into the outfield as Jeter has.
You know, Joe, until you hear that guy call, that outfielder call, it's your ball.
Right.
And Jeter gave up on that ball. I'll guarantee you we're going to see another meeting in the Yankee dugout between Jeter, Zimmer, and Torrey.
Guys, let me ask you, does a fella's personality carry over in most cases to the field? Both Derek Jeter and Bernie Williams are very quiet. Neither strikes me as particularly assertive, although they both are stars already. This guy's going to be the Rookie of the Year, and Williams is emerging as one of the game's great players at age 28. But neither one strikes me as a take charge type of personality on the field. Am I right?
You're right, but the position that they play, both of them play, demands that they take charge.
The ball bounces away from Girardi, and here is Murray cruising down to second.
Here's that last pitch thrown by David Cone. Girardi tried to block it, got his body down in front of the ball, and had it hit off the heel of his glove, bounce to his right. He finally catches up to it, but Murray winds up at second on a wild pitch. You know, Joe, in that particular case, that's Jeter's ball. I mean, he was right there. He was right there. And you don't hear Williams calling.
Rolled down to Martinez. Behind the bag, he takes it himself. Murray to third, but with two out now. And it will be up to the number 9 hitter, Chris Hoyles. Let's watch the play in shallow center again.
All right, let's take the shortstop and the center fielder here and see what happens. Now, as Bob Costas mentioned, see how quickly Jeter gets out there? He gets out there very quickly. Now watch him raise his glove right there. Now that tells Bernie Williams, I've got the ball.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got to make the catch. Don't raise your glove and then drop it again, because I'm sure Bernie Williams saw him raise his glove and he dropped it. In fact, I'll relay a conversation I had with Tim Raines about the play last night.
Well, Hoyle stepped out. Go ahead.
Okay. He said that he was running in to catch it, and Jeter raised his right hand like he was going to catch it, and then he stopped and turned and looked at Tim. So it's kind of a similar situation.
Down and away to Hoyles. Now, first base is open, but this is the guy he wants to get. The right-handed hitting number 9 hitter with Brady Anderson and his 50 home runs waiting on deck. 2 outs in the 4th. Murray at third with the potential go-ahead run. In there for a strike.
This guy's no easy guy either, though, Bob. He's hit 25 home runs. He's got excellent power. If there's anything that hurts Hoyles from time to time, it's his defense. Not so much receiving the ball, but enemy runners taking liberties against him. But again, to finish up that play, Joe, Jeter was right there. All he's got to do is turn around and make the catch.
Hayes back of third. Across the diamond. The throw is true. And the Yankees are out of the 4th. It remains a 2-2 game.
Willie Randolph is kind of the infield coach, and you see he's the first one to come to see Jeter. But watch Willie says you go too far. That's exactly what he's saying. He's saying you're throwing the timing off of the outfielders. Either you go out and get it or you stop short.
Bottom of the 4th, Tino Martinez against David Wells taking a ball. Bernie Williams also receiving some counsel.
I wonder what I bet you, Bob, next year's spring training, what's the first thing you think they'll be doing out there?
Hitting some fungos out into shallow left and shallow center. That's back in the seats. One of the keys to Yankee dominance when they've had their pennant-winning teams and contending teams, it's obvious in this ballpark, it's always been left-handed hitting. Ruth and Gehrig, Mantle a switch hitter, most of his at-bats left-handed, Reggie Jackson and others. Well, in this postseason, Tino Martinez, Paul O'Neill, Wade Boggs, and Darryl Strawberry. Boggs and Strawberry not in the lineup today. Ooh! Martinez is plunked and plunked hard. Gritting his teeth as he heads down to first. And he'll get some attention. Just to complete the thought, those 4 important left-handed hitters are a combined 143 on 9 for 63.
Well, here's a fastball from Wells, and I mean, this is a good one. I mean, that's up, and I mean, that one's a good one. I guarantee you there's some stitches, prints on in his back right there. I mean, this gets him right on the 4.
You want the quarterback to hit you right between the numbers, not the pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, that one had some hair on it, too.
Yep. When Joe says this is a good one, it doesn't necessarily mean for the hitter.
Right. You know, in hanging around with you and other former ball players, both you guys, I think at some level there's an almost perverse delight in some of the hardball aspects of this game and some of the war stories of the hits and the near misses, right?
Well, it's all part of the game, Bob. It's been part of the game for such a long time, and not that you preach violence or anything else, but there is a certain amount of intimidation that goes with pitching and hitting, and that's a part of it. And I don't care what your personality is as a pitcher, if you're standing out there getting your brains beat out game after game, sooner or later you're going to start throwing at people and knocking them down and brushing them back and whatever it takes.
0-1 to Duncan, who was robbed of a hit on a terrific play in the hole by Cal Ripken back in the 2nd. Very close play at first. Duncan thought he was safe.
I always thought it was a compliment for somebody to throw at me. I really did. I'm serious. I didn't like it too much when I was in street clothes, but
a ball and a strike.
I've had pitchers say that they're not really throwing at the hitter. They just want to remind them that they're still out there.
Yeah.
You know, that you're not hitting off the pitching machine.
Joe and I were talking the other day, and it's a common fact among pitchers and catchers and anybody else in baseball that guys do throw at certain people and try to intimidate you and knock you off the plate. And if a catcher liked you enough, he would tell you. He really would. I mean, you know.
Would you tell a guy, look out, we're going to flip you here?
I'd say, you know, be alive, be ready.
Duncan hits it hard. Zeal comes up with it, pegs it to Alomar and on to first. And the Orioles turn a difficult and nifty double play.
Nice turn at second base by Roberto Alomar. Nice play by Zeal. I mean, you have to get a good, accurate throw from the third baseman to turn this play. Zeal does a good job. He gets down on one knee, comes up with it. Now watch where the throw is. Perfect throw across the diamond. That's where you want it, right up there about the chest high. Alomar just turns it over. Nice play.
Another close play at first involving Duncan.
There it is, 5-4. And you see Alomar drop down a little bit. That makes the runner get down very quickly.
And a ball to Paul O'Neill.
That's a form of intimidation, too.
Well,
that's how you protect yourself at second base. Guys are going to come in and try to break you in half. The only protection you have is you get the ball quick enough. You have to throw at them and make them get down. And that's what Alomar did right there. That's why he dropped down sidearm.
I haven't run into too many guys that like to get hit on a double play ball at second or a throw coming from a shortstop or a second baseman.
As we watch this attempted takeout again, who was the roughest you ever had to deal with as a middle infielder coming in on a play like this?
Well, there were several, Bob. There were a lot of guys. Usually the big guys who were the fastest. Dave Parker.
2-1.
And Frank Robinson was my first initiation to the big leagues. We were both from Oakland, California. We just talked before the game, and I thought, you know, hey, this guy kind of likes me. First inning, he flipped me, and I thought I was dead out there at second base. And then I learned right away what Frank Robinson was all about.
2-2 to O'Neill. I'll never forget the story of Bob Gibson. Great pitcher and one of the most intimidating ever. The last pitch he ever threw in the major leagues in September of 1975 was hit for a grand slam by the Cubs' Pete Lecoq. Several years later, Gibson faced Lecoq in an old-timers game and hit him.
See, that only surprised you. That was his surprise you, Kurt.
Hey, it was his first chance to even the score. He never got another at-bat.
Yeah, it didn't surprise
me at all. Nope. Well, I'll tell you, Bob Gibson was something. I had the luxury and the pleasure to catch him on a number of occasions, and everything they say about him is true. He was really something. Hall of Famer, a great pitcher.
Wells works 3-2 to O'Neill, and it's fouled off. Very, very few were in Bob Gibson's class in terms of effectiveness, but almost nobody exuded the passion for the task that he did. When he was on the mound in those World Series games against the Yankees in '64, the Red Sox in '67, the Tigers in '68, when he struck out 17 in Game 1, I mean, you could almost feel his determination and feel his purpose burning toward the hitter from the mound. Another 3-2 pitch. And a 2-out walk. Thursday night means, as you know, must-see TV. All new episodes of Friends, The Single Guy, Seinfeld, Suddenly Susan, and ER, America's favorite night of television, NBC, Thursday. Well, on Seinfeld, Jason Alexander's character, George Costanza, is the Yankees' assistant traveling secretary. A little bit of controversy this past week when George Steinbrenner wouldn't let the Yankee wives travel on the charter to Texas. I wonder if George Costanza had any hand in that decision.
I doubt it.
Well, he wanted them all in individual Piper Cubs to, you know, just kind of a, you know, little formation job all the way down there.
Hayes starting at third base instead of Boggs against the left-handers. Struck out his first time. Hits it well to deep left center field. Anderson over with Surhoff. Surhoff goes to his knees to make the catch. I'm not so sure he had a real bead on that ball, but the Orioles survive it. On to the fifth, and here's the Hertz game summary. 3 straight singles and then a DP groundout off the bat of Cecil Fielder produced 2 runs for the Yankees in the first. And although David Cohn was shaky walking the bases loaded in the first, he made it stand up until the third, when after a walk to Brady Anderson, Todd Zeal went deep. That tied it at 2, and that's where we stand now. The game summary brought to you by Hertz. For business, for pleasure. Nobody does it exactly like Hertz.
While we have a chance, Bob, I want to tell you my favorite Bob Gibson story. My rookie year, Bob Bruce was a pitcher for the Houston Astros, and he said to me one day, he said, Bob Gibson is the luckiest pitcher in the league. He said, because every time he pitches, the other team doesn't score many runs.
Yeah. Took that horseshoe to the mound every time.
Every time.
Right.
Oh, he was something. I was walking by the mound one day, and he said, what do you want out here? I said, nothing, I'm going to the bullpen. You know, I was walking by, and he didn't want anybody out there.
A ball and a strike to Anderson.
How did you hit him, Joe?
Like everyone else, seldom, and you know, I got a few hits here and there.
Anderson has struck out and walked, and Cone gets ahead of him 1-2.
Good fastball first pitch, and then he follows that with this slow curveball, and he catches Brady Anderson off balance. So you don't have to throw 90 miles an hour every pitch to keep the hitter off balance. You just have to mix your speeds, and that's what he did here. He threw him a fastball in. Now he throws a slow breaking ball on the outside corner.
Center field, Bernie Williams almost in his tracks. 1 out. Well, let's go back to the bottom of the 4th, and B.J. Surhoff, who has had some uncertain moments in these first 2 games, trying to line this one up and has to go to his knees to get it.
Well, he makes a good catch. Halfway through the play, you saw him look over at Brady Anderson. But watch, I was not sure he caught this ball before it hit the ground, but I think you'll see he gets his glove underneath. Look at that big glove, and it works. Nice play there by B.J. He looked up, and Brady was nowhere near. He said, I've got to get it myself. There's B.J. in the dugout.
Former Brewer, of course, many years with them. Began his career as a catcher. Has played some third base. DH'd a bit in left field now. Eddie Murray handling the DH chores.
Cone has been able to get the breaking ball over so far this inning. It's okay if you don't have your good fastball, if you can throw the breaking ball for a strike.
1-2 to Zeal.
But if you miss with the breaking balls and you don't have a good fastball, you're really going to have problems because they're going to sit on the fastball. He's throwing just enough breaking balls for strikes to keep them honest.
Up and in 2-2. Each club hit 2 home runs yesterday. Zeal's is the only round tripper today. But generally speaking, against the Yankees this year, the Orioles have not homered at their usual pace. Into shallow right, O'Neill coming on, and he makes the catch, and again he is not running well.
Now you can see him hobbling, Bob. You're right. He's having trouble. You can see the wrap. You can see the wrap on the hamstring area on his left leg. And as he comes in for this ball, it looked for a moment like he might not be able to catch up to it. Little breaking ball that Zeal hits the other way, and look at O'Neill. Now look at him limping. It's the left leg, and he's really having problems.
Well, the problem is, Bob, if you can't come straight in, you really have a problem trying to go side to side. So, I mean, he's really posing a problem for Joe Torre to decide when to bring him out of the ball game.
Alomar 0 for 2 today. That one floats in there for strike 1. He's 1 for 8 in the series. He hit .328 for the year and was as high as .410 in early June. The Orioles hit 257 homers for the year, but only 12 in 13 regular season games against the Yankees, who allowed the fewest home runs as a pitching staff in the entire league. In fact, the Yanks, who themselves hit the 3rd fewest home runs in the league, only Minnesota and Kansas City had fewer, they actually out-homered Baltimore head-to-head 16-12. And when you add it all up, that's why the Yankees won 10 of 13, including all 6 at Camden Yards. And they managed to come from behind and win Game 1 of the LCS. This will be pitch number 100 on the 2-2 offering to Roberto Alomar. Spins him away, 3-2.
He's got that fastball. I'm going to say, Joe, he's got that fastball that will run away from a left-handed batter, and that's what he was trying to do to Alomar there. Start him off inside and have that ball come back to catch the inside. He just missed.
Reaches for that one, bounces it toward the middle, and Jeter can't get to it.
David Cone has gone to his breaking ball almost exclusively here this inning, and he's had success. And this ball is just a little chopper up the middle. So it's a breaking ball toward the outside corner. Alomar does a good job of fighting it off and hitting it up the middle. And because Jeter was playing more towards left field, he wasn't able to run it down. So he just fights that off. But Jeter, way over in the hole, does not have a chance to chase that one down up the middle. Good hitting there by Alomar. He stayed with it and fought it off.
Now Palmeiro, who's walked and struck out. Ball 1 to him. He's Baltimore's other Iron Man. He played in all but one of their games this year, and he's averaged better than 150 games per season throughout his career. Of course, what Ripken does day in, day out, year in, year out, dwarfs everybody else in terms of endurance and durability. Alomar stole 17. With another club, he might have swiped more, but as power-laden as Baltimore is, what few speedsters they have, like Alomar and Anderson, are held somewhat in check.
And this is a situation here where in another normal team, he might try to steal second base. I think they want to let Palmeiro hit here in this situation because he has hit so well here in Yankee Stadium. He's hit 4 home runs here this year, and everything is in his favor. So I think you will see Alomar remain at first base and let Palmeiro hit, unless he may get behind and count 2 strikes.
1-0 pitch rolled foul. The pace of this game is very slow, with Cone laboring, with Wells seldom cruising. Moving up on 2 hours old, and we're just in the top of the 5th.
Yeah, they talk so much about time of game today, and games are unbelievably long for the most part. But it's all controlled by the pitchers. I mean, if guys throw strikes, you're around the plate and give a hitter an opportunity to put a ball in play and to let your guys play behind you. It's going to shorten the games tremendously. Of course, ball 1, ball 2. I mean, it's unbelievable, and Joe knows this for sure. It's ball 1, ball 2. Everybody's sitting in the infield saying, come on, throw a strike, throw a strike, throw a strike. And everybody gets down.
Wells hasn't been perfect, but he's had it a lot easier than Cone. Alomar diving back in. It's a 2-2 game, but your sense is that Cone has had much more difficulty finding anything even close to a groove.
And again, Bob, not to belittle the point or belabor the point, but nobody's out there trying to throw balls. Let's point that out. I mean, everybody wants to throw a strike and be around the plate.
Two and two. On the other hand, with a lineup like Baltimore's, you're trying to throw fine strikes because you cringe a little bit when you let the ball go against these guys.
Well, but I think there are times when pitchers give hitters too much credit. I mean, you overestimate guys that it seems as though every time a pitcher says, if I throw a strike to this guy, he's going to hit a home run on me. It doesn't work that way all the time. There are those times when you do have to go after somebody. And David Cone's been around long enough. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's trying to do to every hitter.
Almost had Alomar leaning.
Well, with 2 strikes, it wouldn't surprise me to see him break. As I said, he would give Palmeiro time to hit, but now he's behind in the count 2-2. He may decide, I'll try to steal it. Maybe he'll find a gap and I'll score. Or if I'm out, he starts off the next inning without having 2 strikes on it.
Bluffs the go, and a full count now to Palmeiro, so Alomar will be off. When he's right, David Cone has as nasty an assortment of stuff as anybody in either league, and he combines it with uncanny control. Now he's just trying to get by on guile and whatever resourcefulness he can summon up here. There goes Alomar, and a bouncer to the right side. Duncan gobbles it up. Palmeiro's history. The Orioles strand one. Halfway through in the Bronx, tied at 2, game 2. Goodyear blimp stars and stripes. The Empire State Building in the background, and now the camera closes in on the GE Building at 30 Rock, as some of you may have heard. In fact, if you tuned into the Today Show this morning, you saw as Joe Girardi comes to the plate and smacks one into right center field, and this ball gets down and into the gap, goes to the wall. He runs well for a catcher. He's thinking about a triple. The throw from Alomar. It's close. He's in there. Many catchers would have legged this into a triple, or would have even tried with nobody out.
I can't think of any other catcher that would have even tried it. He finds a gap in right center field. The great thing for him is he realized that the ball was going to go all the way to the wall and that he had a chance. So he goes full speed right away. See, right now he knows it's in the gap. So he doesn't have to look again until he rounds there. Now he makes up his mind. He does not use the third base coach. He makes up his own mind. Now watch this slide. Man. See, he makes up his mind himself. He does not use the third base coach. Alomar throws offline a little bit, allows him to dive around the tag by Zeal. And there you see the umpire at third base, Rocky Rowe, saying he's safe. And watch this. This is a half slide, half dive.
Look at Willie Randolph. Get down, get down. Oh, man.
Had this throw been closer to the bag from Alomar, they would have had him. Now watch, Zeal catches it before he gets there, but he has to go back and find Girardi, and he can't do it before he touches the bag. Half slide, half dive.
Girardi hit 3 triples during the year, a high total for a catcher. He also stole 13 bases, more than any other big league catcher. The infield comes in now behind Wells with Jeter at the plate. He's 1 for 2. And a ball low.
That's not any kind of a slide you're going to see in any training film,
no.
in any spring training camp, college, high school, baseball, anything else.
This is a little surprising that they're playing the infield in here, Bob, because they risk giving the Yankees an opportunity to have a big inning. It's difficult to cover any ground when you play this infield in.
2-0. Yankees trying to snap a 2-all tie as they bat in the bottom of the 5th.
If this was the 7th inning, I could understand it, but you're talking about the bottom of the 5th inning. You have a lot of baseball left.
The 2-0 from Wells to Jeter. Fouled out of play. Just quickly to complete the thought, and then we focus back on the game. Many of you saw that there was a major fire, a 5-alarm fire in the electrical system at the NBC building, the GE building. All the NBC programs, including the Today Show, were forced out of the studios. There was some smoke damage to the lower floors. A few people were injured, mostly smoke inhalation. And now we're told the building is, at least for the most part, back in operation. The fire quelled. And all is well at the GE building. And upstairs in the Goodyear blimp. All corporate responsibilities have been discharged. Now a 2-1 pitch from Wells to Jeter. In a situation where he needs the strikeout, he runs the count to 2-2.
Well, the thing that you like about Derek Jeter so much is the fact that he'll take the pitch and go with it. There it is around the outside corner from David Wells, and he tried to hit it to right field. And as a matter of fact, if I look at Jeter, more often than not, he's a center to right field hitter. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if David Wells comes in tight on here. I mean, really tries to bust him inside, either with a fastball or a breaking ball.
And Jeter spoils that one.
Again, he went away on the outside part.
And Texas had some success in the first ball game by coming in and jamming him. This ball is actually off the plate outside. Good job by Jeter just to stay alive. But the pitch is out over the plate and not inside. And he has pretty good plate coverage out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Joe. He seems to be looking out there against Wells, especially now. And once you get that guy looking that way, bang, 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 it's not a bad idea to take a shot inside here.
Wells has struck out one, his 2-2 pitch, and there's two when he needs it. Wells is not overpowering in that regard. He struck out 130 in 224 innings, but he can get the occasional K, and he really needed it there.
Well, he's got such a good breaking ball, Bob, and this is what I was talking about a minute ago. Either a fastball or a breaking ball inside when you've got a guy like Jeter looking away the way he is. Here's the breaking ball down in the dirt. Actually a bad pitch. One more time. Take a look at it. Breaking ball in the dirt, and he chased it. So you get a guy looking that way constantly, away, away, away. There's that chance you can go inside on him, and Wells throws hard enough where he can get it by you. There he threw the breaking ball for the strikeout.
One out now, infield in, Raines at the plate, Williams on deck.
I think they should be playing in with one out. But with no out, you give the other team a chance for a big inning.
Strike one. Raines has singled and flied out. Girardi, who tripled, is at third. 2-2, bottom of the fifth. A ball and a strike. If the Yankees score here, it'll be interesting to see if Joe Torre lets David Cone, who has thrown well over 100 pitches, come out for the sixth. If they do score, Cone could be in the surprising position of being the pitcher of record on the winning side at this point in the game, which, considering the way he started, was a position he might never have thought he'd be in today. Fouled off 1-2.
You know, it's such a cool afternoon, Bob, and Joe Torre has nobody in the bullpen. There's nobody tossing out there. Everybody is sitting around and watching the action. And if indeed he did have that idea or was thinking about it, I mean, he'd have to have somebody up. You can't just say to yourself, all right, we got to run, get somebody out there and get him in here now.
Yeah, that would be a good point.
Well,
you'd want to have the guy warm up.
Well, that's look, I don't get $75 a game for nothing, okay?
I didn't realize it was that kind of per diem. The 1-2.
It's actually not that much. I'm kind of blowing smoke at myself.
Well, whatever gets you over with the folks back home.
You got that right.
Not a good average there with runners in scoring position for Tim Raines. 1 for 15. But he doesn't need a base hit here. All he needs is a fly ball to the outfield.
And here it comes. A full count. You know, this might seem like a strange question, but I bet a lot of people at home wonder about it, especially on a big league infield. I don't think people appreciate how close the pitcher's mound is to the plate.
Yeah.
How close you are to the hitter when the infield plays in. With a left-handed hitter up, you're playing second base. Isn't it a little bit intimidating to be that close looking at a tough left-handed hitter?
Well, if you're standing up there against a guy like Willie Stargell, yes. And it's even tougher when you're playing on AstroTurf that's wet.
That ball can come off the bat very quickly and get right on top of you. Raines works a walk. Raines was the guy that Wells wanted to get.
Well, David Wells thought he had the inside corner, too. He thought he had the strikeout.
Well, he thinks that Wells, I think Tim Raines is a little lucky that this pitch wasn't a couple of inches more toward the middle of the plate, because there was no way he could hit it.
I don't know if it was that bad of a pitch anyway.
Well, let's take a look. Yeah, see, it's just a little bit off the corner. But if it would have been 3 or 4 more inches over, there was no way Range could hit it. And watch Wells. He actually asked Hoyles when he comes out there, he asked him, was that pitch a strike? I didn't see Hoyle's reaction, but he asked him, was that a strike?
I'm sure he did, though.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, if he could have gotten Range without Girardi coming across, then he could have worked very carefully to Williams, or maybe even just walked him intentionally. But of course, Fielder is on deck.
Well, this is a situation where if you're Joe Torre, you have to tell Tim Raines, even though Tim Raines is on his own, you have to tell him to hold at first base. Because if he steals second base, they're going to walk Bernie Williams, and then Cecil is more of a double play situation, easy to double up than Bernie Williams would be.
And a called strike. This number is kind of surprising to me. Bernie Williams, who runs well, hit into 15 double plays this year.
Well, the reason, Bob, is when you watch him hit, he hits with his upper body, and that keeps his lower body stays stationary, and it takes him a little longer to get started out of the batter's box. Watch his upper body. That's basically what he swings with, and he ends up staying there a little longer than most hitters do that can run.
And, of course, a bit more likely to be doubled when hitting from the right side. The infield looks for the double play. They were in against the previous 2 hitters. Girardi, who tripled, is at third. Raines, who walked with 1 out, is at first. 2-2 tie, bottom of the 5th. Wells steps off and bluffs. Wells closed the regular season with 3 or 4 bad outings in a row. Then pitched respectably in 2 starts against Cleveland when it really counted in the division series. He was just 11-14 for the year after going 16-8 a year ago. He's ahead of Bernie Williams, 0-2. Williams, who won last night's game, trying to give the Yankees the lead in game 2.
Well, I was talking earlier about him liking the ball out over the plate. Both of these fastballs have been on the inside part of the plate, and that's the reason that he has him 0-2. Bernie likes the ball away. The pitch was away, and he singled to drive in a run earlier in the ball game. But now Wells is trying to stay right on top of him.
Inside 1-2.
I love this game. That's why I love this game. Take a look at this one more time. And David Wells against a guy with big-time power. Hoyles wanted it inside, and again, he didn't miss by much. If he missed at all, he didn't miss by much. Just a bit inside.
Well, that's out of the way.
Wow.
Put a check next to that.
Yeah, for sure. Breaking ball.
Got him. David Wells had struck out only 1 through the first 4 innings. But he gets 2 here in the 5th with a man at third base.
And this curveball just keeps biting. If you're the hitter, now watch how high it starts. It's up there. You say, well, I can hit this. And then it just starts biting, and before you get to it, it's out of the strike zone. Now watch, this pitch is in the strike zone now, and all of a sudden it's out of the strike zone.
Boy, what a great pitch.
He is fooled both by the speed and the break. Watch, he's out in front because he's fooled by the speed, and then the break of the ball just really takes him out of the game. I mean, he couldn't hit that pitch if he got to swing at it 3 times.
Absolutely. Boy, what a job by Wells here with Girardi at third. Nobody out. Strikes out 2, and he's about to get out of it, facing Fielder here. I bet you see the same kind of stuff here to Fielder. Fastballs in, breaking stuff.
Fastball in. Himself for strike 1.
Here's another guy that'll chase the breaking stuff down low and away, down low and inside. Here you'll see it one more time. This is a high inside fastball. And Cecil Fielder trying to get out of the way. He had ideas of taking a hack at that one anyway.
One of the things we've seen from Fielder in the other in the divisional playoffs was that with 2 strikes, he would go back through the middle and go the other way. But until he got 2 strikes, he's trying to hit it out of the ballpark.
Hit sharply. Alomar playing deep, lots of time. Over to Palmeiro. A leadoff triple goes to waste. Gutty pitching in the 5th by Wells, still tied at 2. Now someone's up in the Yankee bullpen, and it's David Weathers, who was so important in their Game 4 victory, the decisive victory over the Texas Rangers in Arlington. A great stint of middle relief that set the stage for their come-from-behind victory. Kenny Rogers, the starter, lasted only 2 innings. Quick hook that day from Joe Torre. But Weathers and others kept them in it until they could get to Rivera and Wetland. Bobby Bonilla now in the 6th. Yankees had a great opportunity in the bottom of the 5th. But David Wells got tough and left Girardi at 3rd after a leadoff triple. Bonilla has walked and struck out. Big cut and a miss.
And David Cone is almost pitching backwards, Bob, for the way that he normally pitches. He usually establishes his fastball and then gets you out with a breaking ball or the splitter. Now he's using those to set up his fastball.
On 3 pitches, he dispatches Bonilla. Let's go back to the job Wells did in the bottom of the 5th.
And he basically did it by throwing this good breaking ball. He threw him a couple of fastballs away. This sets up the breaking ball right there out of the strike zone. Same thing with Bernie. Fires him inside with 2 fastballs. Now watch this beautiful curveball. I mean, that you can't hit that pitch if you're Bernie Williams after looking at 2 fastballs on the inside corner.
Here's Ripken. Cal is flied out and singled. Ball 1 from Cone.
And you can see Cone is starting almost every hitter off with a breaking ball, whereas normally he's a fastball pitcher and goes the other way. So he's pitching backwards, and sometimes that has a good effect on the hitter if you're David Cone, because they're looking for a first pitch fastball and you're throwing them something else.
In there, 1-1.
You know, one of the things that we haven't seen Cone do today yet is drop down sidearm, Joe.
Right.
When he's got out in front of somebody, a right-handed batter, to use that big sweeping sidearm curve, or occasionally a fastball that he'll throw sidearm and run it away.
Well, one thing you see here, both of them are throwing real good curveballs. Curveballs are not something you see a lot in Major League games anymore. You see the slider, but the overhand curveball I still think is the most effective pitch.
Ripken goes the other way. A little flare over the head of Tino Martinez for a 1-out single. The second hit of the day for Cal.
Now, this is not a bad pitch by David Cone. That's a broken bat job by Ripken. A fastball that he had by him, but he got enough of it to dump it over the head of Martinez at first. Joe Girardi there, running right behind Ripken. Watch Girardi wind up at first in case Ripken takes a big turn. Martinez giving chase on this ball. Here it is again. Little broken bat humpback liner just out of the reach of Tino Martinez.
Eddie Murray's 0 for 2. Struck out, hit into a force play. A bizarre force play. Hit what could have been a bloop single into center field, which Jeter and Williams let fall between them when either one could have handled it. But because Ripken had to play it halfway, Jeter was able to pounce on the ball and throw to Duncan covering second for a 6-4 force out from shallow center. Cone's 1-0 pitch. A called strike. Is this David Cone's last inning? Regardless, Graham Lloyd, the left-hander, now up along with David Weathers in the Yankee bullpen.
I say yes. I say it is. I say he's had enough. There you see him, Weathers, the right-hander. Graham Lloyd, the former Brewer. Now a Yankee, the left-hander. I think he's done. I think he's thrown enough. I really do. Whether he even finishes this inning. 2-1 to Eddie Murray. Well, that was his 116th pitch.
And in the first or second inning of this game, if you had told Joe Torre that he would get him through the 6th and possibly get him through the 6th with the score tied, I think Joe Torre would have jumped at that possibility.
And with the fact that he's thrown 116 pitches, I guarantee he would have jumped at it.
Blocked by Girardi to prevent any advance by Ripken.
I want to finish that point I was making. I said you see more sliders than curveballs, and the reason for that is because the curveball is much tougher to control and throw for a strike. The slider is easier to control, and that's why you see more big league pitchers with throwing sliders than you do the curveballs that you see from Cone and from Wells today.
Not as tough on your elbow either, Joe,
right,
where you're really popping that thing and really putting a strain on your elbow. There's the splitter grip right there. Well, he's really starting to get upstairs now with breaking stuff, and he's been upstairs twice on Murray in balls that are really in the zone to hit. And he knows it. He gets to that point, and we watched him in the game against Texas, Joe, where it was early in the game, and he had control problems all through that stint, 6 innings or 5+ innings that he worked against Texas. Same problem, upstairs.
On 3-2, Ripken breaks, and he'll have to come back. A lazy fly to right. O'Neill for the catch. Well, David Cone has walked 4, 3 of them in the first inning. But he's also gone to 3 balls on 8 other hitters that he didn't walk.
Yeah, he's thrown a lot of pitches, as you said, Bob. We're in the 6th inning here, and again, if he indeed does pitch through this inning, hey, he deserves a pat on the back. Nice job today. See you later, and go to the bullpen.
Surhoff stands in. He's 0 for 2. Grounded to Martinez at first, unassisted both times.
Bob, he holds his, when he gets his sign, watch, he takes it with a splitter grip. And the reason for that is because you don't want to be feeling for that grip in your glove because you'll give it away.
0-2. So if he's not going to throw the splitter, it's easier to relinquish it and adjust that grip rather than to assume it.
It's easier to close your fingers over the ball than it is to spread them and stick the ball between them in your glove, because if you watch closely, you can see a guy when he fixes a splitter in his glove. That's why he holds it like that to start with.
Surhoff lines it into center. Ripken stops at second. 2 on, 2 out.
That was a case right there where I think that he feels like he's tired because he did not want to waste the pitch. He had Surhoff 0-2. He could have tried to move him off the plate. He could have tried to go away. He tries to finish him right away with this splitter. He says, I'm not going to waste a pitch because he feels a little tired, I believe. He tried to finish this batter off instead of coming inside or getting him to chase him. He gave Surhoff a pitch to hit, and he singled to center field.
Not a bad piece of hitting by Surhoff either, Joe. A ball down low and away. Didn't try to pull it. Didn't try to muscle it. Went right with it and lined it to center.
Hoyles is grounded out twice. Sixth inning, game 2 of the American League Championship Series. The Yankees with 2 in the first. The Orioles tied it in the third on a 2-run homer by Todd Zeile. Each team has threatened since, but nothing across. One and one.
The one thing that I've been impressed with this Yankee pitching staff, the 2 starters, Andy Pettitte last night and David Cone today, neither one of them have had their good stuff, but they have really battled. I mean, they're showing you a lot of guts out there, to keep their team in the ball game against the slugging Orioles. I mean, these guys are really doing it with just their heart because they don't have much on the ball. I mean, they do not have their good stuff. Pettit didn't have his good fastball yesterday, and neither does Cone today.
Here's the 1-1 pitch. Is it legitimate to wonder whether Pettit is a bit tired at this point in the season? Everything was up his last couple of starts against Texas and against Baltimore. Had there not been a rainout, he could theoretically have pitched games 1 and then 4 and 7, each of the second 2, on just 3 days rest, and maybe he wasn't up to that. In the seats foul.
I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that he is a little tired. And you have to remember one thing. He's only been in the big leagues a couple of years. In the minor leagues, you only pitch 100 innings at the most. In the big leagues, you're expected to get up around 200 innings. You have to build your arm strength to a point that you can have good stuff up to 200 innings. When you skid around 150 or 159, your arm really starts to go dead if you haven't built up the arm strength.
Two on, two out, and the 2-2 pitch to Chris Hoyles. Full count.
You know, there's one of the few times that David Cone, maybe the first time, that he's dropped down from the side today to try and get Hoyles to chase one.
What do they used to call this? Laredo?
Laredo. You got that right, baby. Sidewinder right there. Big sweeping curveball. Hoyles doesn't chase. You know, the other thing, Joe, when you're talking about pitchers, continue after this pitch to Hoyles.
There go the runners, and they're loaded up on the walk.
Well, he got to go now.
Especially with Brady Anderson heading for the plate. With the bases loaded and Cone shaking his head, Stottlemyre and Zimmer flanking Torrey. He wanted him to get through the inning. But that plan may have been foiled here.
I was just going to say, Joe, to finish up that thought, it's hitters and pitchers at this time of the year. Everybody's starting to get a little bit tired, and it's the pitchers more often than not that make the mistake with a hanging breaking ball to really hurt themselves.
Well, hitters can adjust, Bob, by lowering the weight on their bat.
Absolutely.
You know, if you use a 33-ounce bat the second half of the season, you can go down to 31 or 32. Or if you use 40, you can drop to 38. So you can always adjust if you're the hitter. It's tougher for the pitcher. And you see David Cone, he talked Joe Torre into leaving him in.
You're right. He sure did. He sure did.
Well, if he went with the percentages and brought in Lloyd, then you've got a guy who, except for one perfect inning against Texas, hasn't done much right since he came over from Milwaukee. You bring him into the game against not just any left-hand hitter, but a left-handed hitter who hit 50 home runs, and with no place to put him, no margin for error. If you switch to Weathers, you're asking him to face righty-lefty Brady Anderson. It doesn't compute. There's a called strike.
Well, Joe Torre's done a magnificent job so far. You know, starters, bullpen, whatever he's done, everything has worked so very well for him. And here's that little conversation with David Cone. And he's telling Joe Torre, I want to stay. I want this out. I can get through it.
The 0-1. He did check. 0-2. Well, Cone, you could see it. You could read his lips. He said, I want this out. He's maybe a pitch away from getting it.
Well, look at this crowd at Yankee Stadium. They're on their feet. Everybody in this ballpark is on their feet.
This is one of the few times you'll see the hitter agree with the umpire. Now, watch Brady Anderson. He shakes his head, says, yes, I went.
It's a gutty performance by David Cone, no matter what the outcome here against Anderson is.
0-2 pitch coming with the bases loaded. 1-2. Anderson is struck out, walked, and flied out.
See Brady Anderson keep that leg in there, Joe? He looked like he almost wanted to get hit. We show that again. You'll see Anderson. He's not moving. He's not making any drastic moves to get out of the way of that last fastball, and it almost did Nicky. Splitter down low and away.
Cone trying to get out of the sixth.
Well, he's trying to throw the fastball inside and make it move back on the inside corner.
Joe Torre thought it was a strike.
Well, he's trying. Watch where the pitch starts. It starts inside, and he's trying to get it to move back over the plate. Watch the movement. See, it does move back, but it does not get enough of the plate. And Joe Torre wants anything to be called a strike right now. He wants out of this inning with a 2-2 tie.
In the air to left, toward the line, reins over, into foul ground, reaches in and he's got it. He had to fight a fan, but that ball was live. That wouldn't have been so controversial for Rich Garcia. That ball was up for grabs. The fan had not reached out, but still Garcia says, hey, couldn't you make it easy on me? They leave him loaded. This is more borderline than it might have appeared at first glance, because when he catches it, the ball is on the other side of the fence. Then with the lunge, he's into the crowd. The fella in the green windbreaker is really doing something not much different than the 12-year-old did yesterday. But if he had interfered here and kept Raines from making the catch that appeared to be fairly routine had he not been interfered with, and if Garcia had not called it interference in that situation, didn't have to there because Raines made the catch, how would the New York fans have felt about that? The New York fans who salute the kid as a hero, how would they have felt about that?
I think that look on Garcia's face is worth $1 million, Bob, because the players have a saying that if you're having trouble out there, the ball will find you. If you make a couple of errors out there, if they move you to another position, that's the first place they hit the ball. They moved him from right field line to left field line. The ball finds you all the time if you're having problems.
Martinez has flied out and been hit by a pitch. Outside from Wells, 1-2. The Yankees have left 18 men on base in 16 innings in these two games. The Orioles for the series are 0 with runners in scoring position. Opportunities have abounded. Not all that many of them cashed in. Duncan on deck and then O'Neill. The 1-2 pitch. Hit the other way. And into the seats foul. And they almost all of them go spilling out. Reaching in desperation. Please, BJ.
Getting back to Richie Garcia for just a moment, Bob. You've known him a long, long time. I've known him ever since he's been in the league. One of the hardest working guys, conscientious, and he made no bones about it last night. I mean, he said, I blew it. That's all. What else can you say?
Another 1-2 pitch. Off speed, hit hard. Off the chest of Palmeiro. Wells covers. And they get the out. A bullet, and Palmeiro stayed with it and almost ate him up.
Al, I talked earlier about Rafael Palmeiro. We've talked so much about his offense. This guy is a good first baseman. And you talk about an eat-em-up hop. That was one right there. Knocked it down chest high. David Wells on the move to take the little toss. Here it is again. This ball comes up on Palmeiro and hits him in the chest. Stays right on it, though, and with David Wells covering, they retire Martinez. That ball was hit hard. Any infielder can stand there and do those old A jobs, you know, where you get off to the side and all that stuff. Stand in front of them and take those the line drives or the one hoppers. They don't feel too good.
Palmeiro checking to make sure he's still in one piece. That thing was scorched. Duncan's 0 for 2.
This is one of those plays where you almost hope you get hit on the other side too, so you fill out. You take one on the other side of the chest, so you fill out evenly. That ball was really hit. Had a lot of sting on it. And he's still hurt.
And the 0-2 pitch. Bottom of the 6th. 2-5-0 for both clubs. Duncan appears to have broken his bat.
I talked to the umpires today about how they station themselves down the lines. Now, if you take a look at Rich Garcia, he's walking away now, but he is close to the third base umpire, Rocky Rowe. You see him walk away, but you can see where the line is distorted there. That's where he stands. Now, last night, he was also close down the right field line. Now, take a look at Larry Barnett. He's down the right field line now. He's farther down the line and also in fair territory. And I asked him about this because I remembered the umpires being farther away from each other, and they say it's all about individual preference, so there's no set way of doing it.
Another 0-2 pitch. A ball and 2 strikes. A couple of months ago in Seattle, Edgar Martinez of the Mariners hit a ball in a game against the Yankees that was originally called a home run. A fan reached over and touched the ball. The Yankee outfielder had no chance to catch it, but another umpire overruled the original call, and Martinez was given a double because it was decided that the fan had touched it reaching over the fence, and while it would have hit the wall, it would not have gone out. This one's down the line and left, and it's right on the chalk. A fair ball bouncing up, and Garcia has another call to make. DJ Surhoff will now decide to throw it deep into the stands and not reward anybody who reached out from the first row. Look at Richie. The ball will find you.
Yeah, you're right. But watch, right away on this, he makes the right call here. Watch, he'll give you the signal, which is his clasping his wrist. That tells you that fan interference. Ball bounces. Now watch him. It's a fair ball. Now he sees the fan touching it right there. He clasps his wrist. That means fan interference right there. And it's an automatic double. There you see Richie saying they're just going to find me wherever I go.
He's either signaling ground rule double or cuff me and get me out of here.
Well, they promise. All you can do is laugh. Here's O'Neill, singled and walked. With 1 out and Duncan at second. He hit .302 for the year. But with the hamstring, he's not the same hitter.
We've seen Wells pitch out of jams, especially, last inning, and right away he's back in trouble again.
O'Neill is 3 for 19 in the postseason. A single and a walk today. Here's the 0-1. In there for a strike. Another look at Richie Garcia. Hit it the other way, he seems to be saying. Come on, pull the ball. Stop aiming at me. Hit it the other way. Usually when you work the lines in these 6-man crews, relatively speaking, it's a rocking chair assignment.
Yep.
That was for Garcia. That was his statement last night. He said only he could get in trouble down the right field line.
Or maybe the left field line. A ball and 2 strikes. You see what Surhoff did, though? After the ball landed just fair and then skipped toward the wall and a fan touched it but wasn't able to pick it up, Surhoff wanted to give it to the fans as a souvenir, but he wasn't going to give it to any of those people who were leaning out. He threw it several rows in, and he did it with the previous ball, too. The 1-2 pitch. And O'Neill goes down swinging. Wells has struck out 4, but 3 of them have come with runners in scoring position in the last 2 innings. In fact, 2 of them came with Girardi at third and less than 2 out.
And we talked about the fact that O'Neill can't use his lower body, and that last swing was really with nothing but his arms. I mean, that's all he's swinging with. And you cannot generate a lot of bat speed with just your upper body and your arms.
O'Neill is always very hard on himself, even when he's hitting way above 300. He's been known to rant and rave after an at-bat which displeases him. Rolled foul, but really, he can't be that hard on himself here. He is just doing it through clenched teeth.
Exactly. And watch what he swings with. Look, he just swings with nothing but his hand. Watch how his legs just become stationary right there. See? His upper body, nothing to generate any bat speed. He just swings with his upper body, and you can't catch up with Wells' fastball with just your upper body. Unless you start to swing when he starts his windup.
Or gets the sign.
Yeah.
The real disappointment is you play all season to get to the postseason. This is one of the game's best hitters, and he's just not in a position to give his 100% best in the games that matter most, the games you dream about playing in.
And unfortunately, a couple of days off will not cure the problem.
And there are no days off in this series until Monday at the earliest, if it gets that far. Hayes is struck out and flied out. A called strike 0-2.
Well, we talk so much about David Cone and the job that he's done against Baltimore. I tell you, this guy, David Wells, has pitched an outstanding game here today, too. A couple of back-to-back strikeouts in the 5th inning to Jeter and Range when he was in a jam after the triple by Girardi to lead off the inning. He's pitched a heck of a game.
Yeah. Did Hayes go around? He did. The ball gets away, but Hayes didn't break right away. He could have made it a closer play if he'd realized what was happening. And Hoyles tosses him out. 5 strikeouts for Wells, still tied at 2. Well, David Cone, surprisingly, was able to go 6 innings. You wouldn't have given much for his chances of doing that early in this game. But he got the Yankees this far, and now Joe Torre hands the ball to Jeff Nelson, who worked a perfect 8th yesterday, including a strikeout. He grew up in Baltimore as an Oriole fan. He's pitched especially well in the last few weeks. More effective down the stretch than his overall season numbers would indicate. If you're just joining us, Joe Torre said emphatically before the game that Mariano Rivera, who threw 40 pitches in 2 innings of work yesterday and was the winning pitcher, is not available. So it's up to Nelson to get them to the 9th here and hope they can score in one of their next couple of at-bats and set the stage for Wetland. That's the ideal scenario for Torre and the Yanks. 2-2 in the 7th. The 2 Oriole runs on a 3rd inning homer by this man, Todd Zeile, who leads it off for them, to be followed by Alomar and Palmeiro. Nelson starts him with a strike.
You talk about a guy who will pitch on your knuckles. This is the guy, Jeff Nelson. He's got an excellent fastball, and it runs. I mean, really dives into a right-handed batter. And then that big sweeping curveball that makes you give a little bit. Your mind always says stay in there, but your backside says see you later. Here's that big sidearm curve by Nelson. Watch this. You saw Todd Zeile's front foot take a dive toward 3rd on that big breaking ball.
And Nelson thought he had him on what could have been a called 3rd strike, staring in at Dale Scott for a moment.
Now here it is. That's it. That was the last pitch. A fastball. And I'll tell you what, didn't look all that bad.
2-2.
Bob, I think one of the reasons he didn't get that pitch is because he was set up outside and the ball came back on the inside part of the plate. A lot of times the umpire goes out there with you, as you know. He rides on the catcher to follow the ball.
And I always used to wonder about that, Joe, as you watch the home plate umpire Dale Scott work, and most umpires do this now. It was always that way in the National League. They used to sit on your inside shoulder, depending on a right-handed batter or left-handed batter, and it always bothered me that I thought maybe they'd miss the outside pitches. They were great on inside pitches because of where they set up to a catcher. In this case was Zeile. Look where Scott's setting up.
Hit to second, Duncan in front of it. And there's the first out on the 7th. Well, they say of umpires that you know they've done a good job when they go unnoticed. That is not a possibility for Rich Garcia this week in New York, and so he's accommodating autograph requests. This was during the commercial, you might point out, not during live action.
Hey, Rich, there's a ball. There's a double right by you.
Thank goodness there's no off day tomorrow. Maybe Rich would be on the Rosie O'Donnell show instead of the kid who caught the ball. Here's Alomar.
He probably told B.J. Surhoff, don't throw those balls so far back in the stands. Throw them right in the front here where I can sign them.
Alomar's 1 for 3. And that ball is inside third base for extra bases. Chased by Raines, and Alomar in with a double.
Well, Alomar's last 2 at-bats have resulted in base hits. Maybe he has finally been able to relax here in New York and swing the bat. He had an off night last night, but this is Roberto Alomar at his best. Sinking fastball. The ball is running away from him, and he just slaps it. Watch this pitch. He just slaps it down the third baseline, and that's what makes him dangerous.
Hayes way off the bag, no chance.
Right. Well, Hayes is off the bag and in because he may bunt, so just a good job of hitting here by Alomar. You see him, he just goes out there, slaps it the other way. That's why he was hitting .400 for a long time earlier this season.
So now with the go-ahead run at second and 1 out, it's Palmeiro to be followed by Bonilla. No soft spots at all in the Oriole lineup. Palmeiro fouls it off. The Yankee starters, now that Cone has completed his work today, have worked 32 innings and given up 20 runs. Their combined ERA is a little over 5.5. But look at what the relievers have done. In 24 innings of work, 1 run allowed, a microscopic earned run average. The relievers have all 4 of their postseason victories.
If you're Jeff Nelson here, I think you need to give 100% of your concentration to Rafael Palmeiro. I don't think you need to bother with Roberto Alomar. You have a left-handed hitter up there, and he's probably not going to steal third with a left-handed hitter at the plate. Plus, he also has their leading RBI man at the plate, and the last thing you want to do is be thrown out with him standing there.
And again, trying to stay away from Palmeiro, that time with a breaking ball, trying not to give him anything that he can pull. I mean, not to say that you can't come inside, as we've talked on a number of occasions. You can still move this guy back off the plate.
2-1 to Palmeiro, who's 0 for 2 with a walk today, and who drove home 142 runs during the regular season. Nelson's 2-1 pitch with Alomar leading away from second. Misses, and he falls behind 3-1. Palmeiro had 3 hits, including a homer yesterday, plus a couple of walks. David Wells hoping his team can assume the lead for him here. And Palmeiro lifts this one to deep right. Back goes O'Neill all the way to the fence, and it's out of here. A towering fly ball that just kept on climbing into the early evening sky at Yankee Stadium. And Palmeiro, for the second straight day, has homered on a pair of 2-run homers, one by Zeal, which tied it. And now this one by Palmeiro. The Orioles have taken the lead 4-2.
While there are pitchers who do not match up well against certain hitters, Nelson doesn't match up well against Palmeiro because the only pitch he may be able to get him out with is a breaking ball. He throws him the breaking ball, and that's moving into him. And so Palmeiro gets that one. He knows he had enough of it. And O'Neill goes back, and I think he gets a little help from the wind. It was high enough, and O'Neill goes back, and it just drifts over the wall.
The wind is blowing out toward right, and it was more than high enough to get up into that jet stream.
Well, he hung a breaking ball that time. I mean, it's not that he can't throw a breaking ball to Palmeiro if it's down and in where he wanted it to be, but he hung that pitch, and he hit it all. He got it all.
This is the first time the Yankee bullpen has let them down in this postseason. And the little things that affect the course of a series. The Yankees can't complain about really anything that happened in Game 1 because they got the huge break with the call in right field on Jeter. Bonilla hits one a mile high. Martinez back from first, Duncan over from second, and the ball is in the seats. But nonetheless, Joe Torre was hoping when he brought Wetland out ahead of Rivera in the 9th inning yesterday that Wetland could give him a scoreless 9th and that his team would score in the bottom half and he wouldn't have to use Rivera and thus have him available for 2 or maybe even 3 innings here. Instead, while they won the game, Rivera did have to pitch 2 innings, and that scratched him for this game too. In a tie game in the 7th, if he were fresh, Rivera would be in here now instead of Nelson. It's another reason, by the way, why a best-of-7 series is a much fairer test than a best-of-5.
Oh, yeah.
Because you go deeper into your roster, it's a truer test of all the little nuances that make up a full 25-man team. More of the subtleties of the game can come into play. Rivera's name is still on that list. But according to everything Torre told us, he's the last guy he'd call upon. We'd be looking at the 19th inning before we got to him. 2-2 pitch to Bonilla. And Nelson strikes him out. It's the 3rd time Bonilla has fanned. Sunday, NBC Sports presents NFL action. Noon Eastern with the NFL on NBC. Most of you will see an AFC East showdown. The Bills hosting the Dolphins. Some will see the Steelers and the Bengals. Others get the Jets and the Jaguars or the Oilers and the Falcons. Check your local listings for the game in your area. The NFL on NBC Sunday at noon Eastern. Unless there's a sweep in this series, we'd follow football with Game 5, a late afternoon game from Camden Yards, 4 o'clock Eastern on NBC. Ripken to the plate with 2 out and nobody on, but 2 runs home here in the 7th. Cal is 2 for 3, a pair of singles. Girardi, Jeter, and Raines for the Yanks in the bottom of the 7th. Rolled towards second. Duncan bobbles it and blows an easy play. Ripken aboard on the error.
Now this is an excellent pitch by Nelson, a jam job fastball. He really fisted Ripken on that ball, and an easy play. Easy play for Mariano Duncan. Well, how many times have you seen the easiest of ground balls kicked by an infielder or an outfielder for that matter? This ball is so easy, and Joe, he didn't get down on the ball. I mean, he just stood straight up. It was that easy of a ground ball, and so routine. I mean, normally you see him get his hands out in front of him, get down a little bit, and make an easy play on that ball, but he didn't.
So that gives Murray a cut at it here. He's 0 for 3. Not anymore. Through the hole on the left side.
Well, Eddie Murray is a guy that knows what the pitcher's going to throw him most of the time. He knows what he has to do up here. Watch, he just fights this ball off. He just slaps it to left field. He gets a fastball running away from him, just slaps it to left field for a base hit.
So a pair who go way back for the Baltimore Orioles. Ripken at second, Murray at first. Ripken has always given Murray credit for kind of shepherding him into the major leagues, taking him under his wing. Of course, Cal grew up around baseball with his dad. From the time he was a little kid, he was around professional baseball, so he carried himself like a veteran from the time he broke in, but Murray helped. A chopper over the mound, Jeter to his left, steps on the bag, and Nelson averts further difficulty, but the 2-run homer by Palmeiro has the Orioles in front 4-2. B.J. Surhoff made the last out in the top of the 7th, and now he's replaced for defensive purposes in left by Mike Devereaux.
0
2 David Wells back out for the 7th. Girardi, who tripled his last time up, tripled to lead off the 5th and never got home, as Wells was able to bear down and get 2 big strikeouts and get out of the inning. Girardi's 1 for 2. Not new to the postseason. With the '89 Cubs, who won their division, and with the Rockies last year when they took the wild card in the National League. Jeter on deck and then Raines. Bottom of the 7th, 4-2 Baltimore, trying to even the ALCS. Up the middle, base hit.
Well, the Yankees have done their best run scoring late in the ball games, whether it be against relievers or the starters. And Joe Girardi gets him another start here in the bottom of the 7th inning with a single up the middle. Fastball, he grounds right over the head of David Wells, and Cal Ripken gives chase, but no chance of making the play. Fastball away, and he just hammers it right back through the box.
The Yankees have come from behind in all 4 games they've won in this postseason. The 3 against Texas, and yesterday to open this series against the Orioles. Jeter is single, flied out, struck out.
David Wells working here in the 7th inning, Bob, with 95 pitches now. And still throwing well. He's still throwing the ball hard. Starting to get to that point in the game where we may see something going in the Oriole bullpen too.
Jeter takes one on the outside corner for strike 1.
David Wells still throwing hard. There's that last pitch on Jeter, an outside corner fastball. Remember the key strikeout he got to Jeter after a couple of fastballs away, threw him a low inside curve that he chased.
Fouled off 0-2. This is the Orioles' 6th playoff game. And in every case, Davey Johnson's starter has at least gotten him into the 7th, if not through the 7th. Alan Mills and Armando Benitez. Benitez was the pitcher when Jeter, the guy at the plate now, hit the fly ball to right and all heck broke loose in yesterday's game.
Mills is the guy that the Orioles have really missed at the end of the season. He's been bothered by a bad groin. I talked to Andy Etchebarren yesterday, Bob, and he said he's all right to pitch. They say he's okay to go.
Wells ahead of Jeter 0-2. And he strikes him out. Throws him that curveball on the 0-2 pitch. And now he has 6 strikeouts, and 5 of them have come in the last 2 1/3.
And all of them on this breaking ball. It's a good curveball, and this one is a strike. So Jeter has to commit. Watch, it's in the strike zone when it crosses the plate. And Jeter is just fooled by the speed and the break of this pitch. Nice pitch by Wells. And his last 5 strikeouts have all come on that breaking ball.
Yeah, it looks like if you don't get his fastball, Joe, he rides it away with the right-handed batters. If you don't get the fastball, he really snaps the curve. And I mean, down low and inside in good spots more often than not.
The Yankees have 7 hits for the game, but the first 3 Yankees up in the game all singled. Jeter, Raines, and Williams in the first. So since then, Wells has been tough to get to. And when the Yankees have threatened, as they did after the leadoff triple by Girardi in the 5th and the 1-out double by Duncan in the 6th, that's when Wells has been toughest. And Raines takes a strike.
Well, he's right there on the outside with that fastball time and time again. Look at that Yankee bench. Everybody a little more relaxed because they lead the series 1-0. Here's that last fastball on Raines, right on the outside corner.
And the 0-1 pitch on the way. Slice to right. Over is Bonilla, and Bobby runs it down. With Girardi retreating to first with 2 out now, and that leaves it up to Bernie Williams. Tonight, all new must-see TV. That means all new episodes of Friends, The Single Guys, Seinfeld, Suddenly Susan, and ER. America's favorite night of television, NBC Thursday. Jesse Tarasco up. This effort by Wells, if he at least gets through means a lot to Davy Johnson. He had to use 4 different relievers. None of them went that long. Myers an inning and 2/3, but just 16 pitches. But still, he had to use 4 of them. Wells has kept the bullpen out of the game to this point. Williams has singled, walked, and struck out. Tying run at the plate. 4 postseason homers. Three of those 4 homers right-handed for the switch hitting Williams.
And you can see that they're staying in tight on Williams. His single came on a pitch away. But the question is, does David Wells have enough left on his fastball to be able to consistently get inside on Bernie Williams?
Here's his 1-0 pitch. In there, 1-1.
And last breaking ball by David Wells. When Joe and I talk so many times about setting a hitter up, and you get that guy up there looking certain pitches in certain situations, and you can go the other way on him and make him take or make him swing at a bad pitch. That's what the whole game is about.
Hit hard toward the hole. It's through. Singles by Girardi leading off, and Williams with 2 out on the 7th. Put runners at first and second for Cecil Fielder.
Well, this tells you he's losing a little something on his fastball because he can't get inside. See, he tries to get inside on Bernie, and he's able to handle this one. He wasn't able to handle the other fastballs inside, so I think that tells Davy Johnson that maybe he's losing a little bit, and it's time to take him out. See, he can't get that fastball inside. It's a good pitch. It's right where he wants it, but Bernie's able to get through and get around on it. Had that pitch been a couple of miles an hour faster, he would not have been able to get around on it.
We'll be back. Moments ago, Alan Mills making his entrance. I'd say he's not bashful about it. Let me get there and get going.
I tell you what, when I was on deck and they ran in like that, I ran up to home plate. Really, I did, just because I didn't want them to think, you're not in a hurry to get to me, are you?
That's right, yeah.
I'm in just as big a hurry to get to you.
Normally, that's how you see pitchers come in after the game is over to get to the spread in the clubhouse. Now this guy throws good. Very good fastball, good breaking stuff. He's another hard thrower out of this Oriole bullpen.
Well, Mills and perhaps others in that bullpen will try and save it for David Wells, who leaves with the 4-2 lead, but with the potential tying runs aboard in the bottom of the 7th. Mills started his career as Yankee property. Dealt before the '92 season into the Oriole organization. Up and down between the minors and the majors over the next few years. 3-2 this year with an ERA of 4.28. Cecil Fielder 0 for 3. High and away for a ball.
Surprised he started Fielder off with a breaking ball, and that was a slider or a cut fastball. I think it was a slider. But the way this guy throws, he's a very hard thrower, and that's not his number 1 pitch. And to start Fielder off with a pitch like that, that's a breaking ball. That's a slider upstairs.
Way outside, 2-0.
This guy throws in the 90s, and that fastball was 90 plus. He's had problems, Bob, from time to time control-wise. That's been a big bugaboo for him, the fact that he pitches from behind so much. But he's a very hard thrower. He's got good stuff.
Tino Martinez on deck. Fielder asks for time. Davey Johnson hoping to get out of the Bronx with a split. Game 3 tomorrow night at Camden Yards. Hit hard and through for a base hit. Here comes Girardi. No throw to the plate. It's 4-3 with Williams stopping at second with the potential tying run.
And we've seen Cecil Fielder do this several times in the last 2 series, and that is cut down on his swing and just get a base hit. Look, see how he extends out and just gets a base hit. It's not his big, powerful home run swing. He's just trying to drive in a run right there. That's really kind of guiding it through the left side. Good hitting there by Cecil. He knows that he needs to get that run home, and Girardi turns it up a notch, and he comes in to score, and now it's a 1-run ball game.
Joe, here's that same shot from center field. This is a breaking ball again. That's a slider from Mills. That's not his best pitch. His best pitch is number 1, and that's a slider that Fielder was able to get out in front of and turn around and pull.
Well, in the 7th inning yesterday, Jesse Orosco came on to face Tino Martinez, and in a clutch situation, he struck him out. Davey Johnson's going to ask him to do it again. As dusk turns to darkness over New York, the Empire State Building out in the distance. First the Sears Tower in Chicago, then other buildings around the world, plus a few more I understand that are under construction, are technically taller than the Empire State Building, but until a giant ape climbs one of those buildings and starts plucking planes out of the sky, that remains the tallest building on Earth, in my opinion.
Good enough for Fay Ray. It's good enough for me.
You got it. Well, she's still around, Fay Ray.
I know she is.
You bet. Hey,
we haven't run into her.
If she could survive that, she'll probably live to be 180. Well, Tino Martinez will catch no breaks. 0 for 2 with a hit by a pitch against the left-hander Wells, and now he's got to face another tough southpaw, the guy who fanned him yesterday in a similar situation, Jesse Orosco.
Well, let's see if Martinez learned anything about Orosco yesterday, and that is to lay off the breaking ball that's out of the strike zone. I think his fastball is hittable if you can lay off of that pitch breaking out of the strike zone. He chased 2 breaking balls out of the strike zone yesterday.
A run home to make it 4-3. 2 on, 2 out, and Orosco's pitch is a ball.
Well, he chased that pitch twice yesterday. That same pitch right there. It starts above the knees and then breaks out of the strike zone. I think if he's patient and gets Orosco in the hole 2-0, Orosco will have to give in to him.
Joe, don't you think in a case like this, I mean, you're up there, you say to yourself, I've got nothing but breaking balls from this guy. I'm going to look for a breaking ball in a certain zone. Inside to middle, sit there, and then let it all hang out. Go for it.
The 1-0 is a strike.
Good pitch there by Tarasco. He gets the inside corner. That pitch is out over the plate a little bit. Martinez can handle it. But left-handers who can throw the fastball inside to left-handed hitters, that's right on the corner, and then throw the breaking ball away are very effective. You can't hit both. You can't look in and outside.
Right. You can't look curve and hit a fastball. I know that.
No.
Not too often anyway.
Duncan on deck. Hit sharply, but Alomar is there, blocks it, stays with it, and gets him. The Yankees score 1, but strand 2, and the Orioles still have the lead.
Tino Martinez gets a fastball in. He lines it in front of Alomar. With a runner at second, you've got to get in front of the ball. And he does so. See, you got to keep the ball on the infield. He blocks it, picks it up, and throws him out. And then when he gets into the dugout, he checks to make sure all his parts are still working as he takes that one right off the chest. But that's what you have to do.
Or at the very least, to see if the signature of American League President Gene Budig isn't stamped somewhere on his chest.
See these guys starting to wear flak jackets tomorrow.
That is a tough infield out there. We've seen some nasty hops.
Hoyles against Nelson as we move to the 8th. The Yankees have made it a 1-run game. 4 runs, 8 hits. No errors and 10 left for Baltimore. 3-9-1 with 8 stranded for New York. 1-2. Brady Anderson on deck, and then Zeal in the 8th. These two teams began their season's business against each other in late April in Baltimore by playing the longest 9-inning game ever played. They followed it up with a 15-inning affair the next night. Last night's game, 4 hours or so, afternoon into night. O'Neill in right field. Retires Hoyles. This game well over 3 hours already.
Well, in this whole series, Bob, as a matter of fact, the games that we've had a chance to work and watch have all been excellent ball games. I mean, close, tight, big plays, good plays, home runs, big pitches made, pitches that weren't made.
All true, but early dinner reservations are out of the question.
What do you mean true? Of course it's true.
Of course it's true.
Why do you say that?
You know, you're right.
That's better. Don't say true.
Man has become so touchy. There's a base hit by Anderson. His first hit of the day. And it brings up Zeal. And we flash back to the 3rd when the Yankees had a 2-0 lead. But after Anderson walked, Zeal, sitting on a 3-1 pitch, wallops it over Rain's head and over the wall to tie the game at 2.
And remember yesterday when we talked about the keys to this series, it was the power of the Orioles against the pitching of the Yankees, and both all their runs have come today on 2-run homers. The Yankees have scored theirs by getting a lot of singles and moving runners along.
A pair of 2-run homers for Baltimore, appropriately in this season where they broke the record by hitting 257. Zeal got one in the 3rd. Palmeiro got one in the 7th. The Yankees with 2 in the 1st and then 1 in the bottom of the 7th. 4-3 Baltimore.
And the difference in today's ball game is yesterday they hit 2 homers, but they were solo homers, whereas today they've had 2 runners on. They had a runner on each time they hit the home run.
Lined into right center field. Bernie Williams sprinting toward it. Won't get to it. Around second is Brady Anderson. In at third easily. A pair of singles with one out. Runners at the corners.
This ball is not hit hard by Zeal at all. A little flare in the right center field. He hit it down around the end of the bat. Drops in for a base hit. Oriole runners winding up at first and third. And Joe Torre heading out to talk things over with Nelson. He's got Graham Lloyd, a left-hander, out there.
Well, he's got the switch hitter Alomar next, and then a left-handed hitter Palmeiro.
And it's going to be Graham Lloyd coming on. Back to the Bronx after this.
The Goodyear Blimp Stars and Stripes. Our thanks to Captain Chambers and the crew for all their shots during today's telecast.
No, I'm coming. We were talking earlier about riding that thing to Baltimore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ride it to Baltimore, but I'm riding it back on the day off. I'm coming back over here on the day off. I've already talked to the people and remove some of the equipment from inside.
Yeah.
Inside that gondola.
Just to kind of lighten it.
Well, actually, to make room where I can sit instead of laying out there and hanging on. I'm coming back Monday in that thing. It's a 5-hour ride from Baltimore with a few gas stops in between.
Bob, until this year, Alomar was not a good hitter from the right side. He was a much better hitter from the left side.
Graham Lloyd makes him turn around to the right side.
And I think he still prefers to hit from the left side, and I think that's one reason Joe Torre is making this move. Plus, it's easier to double him up from the right side. But he's a much better hitter from the left side.
Plus, if Lloyd faces more than just this one hitter, the next guy, Palmeiro, is a left-handed batter. Alomar cuts and misses.
Well, we finally see what Bob Uecker's been talking about with Graham Lloyd. He says he has good stuff, and I mean, we've seen two good fastballs right here from Lloyd.
He's got a great cut fastball too, Joe, and a very good slider, and it's one of the areas that he really likes to work down low and inside to a right-handed batter. The one thing that they were so pleased with Lloyd in Milwaukee was the fact that he could work both ways. I mean, right-handed or left-handed batter. He had that good cutter or that good slider to work that way. When he got over, he had a little arm problem. And I was really happy to see Joe put him on to see what he can really do. Put him on the roster.
The 0-2 pitch is fouled off. Lloyd was born in Australia. As you say, he had many effective outings with the Brewers, but when he came to the Yankees, along with Pat Listash had a broken foot. Lloyd had a bum arm. And look at those figures. Those are the kind of numbers that make you quick pitch just to get them off the screen. In the air to right. The Yankees hoping it fades into foul ground, which it does. O'Neill makes the catch, and the runner tags. The run will score before they get Zeal in the rundown and tag him out. So the run will count. And we'll sort it all out when we come back. Except we can tell you this. It's 5-3 Baltimore. The Yankees might have misplayed this. They could have gotten out of this without the run scoring. Go ahead, Uke.
You're right, Bob. Here's a little fly ball hit to right by Alomar. There's O'Neill with the catch in foul territory. Now his throw comes back to Martinez. Todd Zeal, the runner, never went back and tagged the bag. All Martinez had to do, if he didn't tag after the catch was made, it didn't show. There he is. Now he got it. Okay. Just to make sure. I thought he was off the bag, and the throw came back where Martinez, all he had to do was tag the bag for the double play.
Had he not tagged up, then Martinez could have stepped on first.
Absolutely.
Before Anderson crossed, trying to tag up and score from third, and the run would have been nullified. But since Zeal had tagged, then they had to run him down and tag him. They get the double play, but Anderson comes across the plate before the second out is recorded. And that makes it 5-3 Baltimore.
Good shot, guys. Didn't know if he tagged up or not.
Tarasco facing Duncan in the bottom half of the eighth. The Yankees not anxious to give up that insurance run. Lloyd was ahead on the count against Alomar 0-2 after throwing a couple of good fastballs by him. They would have been better off had that ball faded into the seats. Sometimes, but usually in the ninth or extra innings, an outfielder will purposely let a ball drop if he's sure it's in foul ground, if he knows the guy's going to be able to tag and score. Here in the eighth, O'Neill chose not to do that.
But I think it's also difficult for him to tell whether the ball was going to be fair or not down the line. It's very close down there.
Yeah, I think he makes the right play. And give Graham Lloyd credit. I mean, he gets the out to a tough guy in Alomar, but why they threw the breaking ball around the outside corner instead of the two fastballs, bang, bang, he gets two quick strikes on Alomar and then leaves a breaking ball hanging out over the plate where he hits the fly ball to right. Foul, but picks up the RBI.
Duncan had a double his last time. He's 1 for 3 in Orozco's 1-2 pitch. Jim Leyritz is in the on-deck circle. O'Neill is the next hitter due. But as we've told you several times, Hall is really struggling with the bad hamstring. Struggling at the plate where he can't push off, in the outfield where he's hobbling. And with the left-hander Orozco on the hill, Torrey will go to his reserve catcher Leyritz. And Duncan hangs in.
And those of us who have experienced a hamstring know that nothing else but a long rest is gonna get it right again. I don't care how much they strap it, how much heat treatments you take, how much coal they put on it, ice, heat, ice, heat. Nothing helps but rest with a hamstring. And there's no way, Joe, you can tell a guy to go halfway, half speed.
Duncan goes down swinging. And now let's revisit that play, which ended the top of the eighth.
Now here it is again. This is a breaking ball left out over the middle by Graham Lloyd. Alomar knows the ball's going to be in foul territory. It's drifting toward the seats and right. There's Paul O'Neill catching that ball just in foul territory. Zeal, who had tagged, draws the throw from O'Neill. Martinez cuts it off. Here's Alomar. Somebody tag. Hey, be ready. Be ready. Go. You tagged. Go.
Well, the reason he's telling them to go is so they won't tag him
absolutely
before the runner crosses the plate.
And again, Joe, the sequence of pitches from Lloyd to Alomar, again, the first two good fastballs that he threw by him, and the breaking ball down, and the breaking ball that he left out over the middle of the plate.
Leyritz, who started yesterday and went 1 for 4. Pinch hitting for O'Neill. 2-0. This is the first time in the postseason that the Yankee bullpen hasn't been perfect or close to perfect. Nelson and Lloyd unable to hold the Orioles in check. There's a strike.
And to your point, Bob, I think the Yankees got caught in a very difficult situation there because Jeff Nelson just does not match up well with Rafael Palmeiro. I don't think you will see that matchup again in this series when it means something, because he just does not match up well. But because of not having a day off, et cetera, Joe Torre's forced to use people in situations where he's not comfortable with them.
Tarasco knocks it down, has time, and retires Leyritz. So now with 2 out and nobody on at the bottom of the eighth, it'll be Charlie Hayes, who's 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts.
Well, Tarasco throws a slider in. He actually jams Leyritz, may have even broken his bat, knocks the ball down, picks it up, has plenty of time. And that's out number 2.
Hard really to fault Lloyd, since Alomar was the only hitter he faced, got ahead of him 0-2 and then got him to foul out.
Well, I guess the tough part, Bob, is you know that you need a strikeout in that situation, or at worst a ground ball. A sinker or something hard may get you either one. An off-speed breaking ball allows Alomar to fight it off, and in most cases a breaking ball, you get out in front of it, you will hit more fly balls than you will anything else.
Remember, Joe, when the deal was made with Lloyd, and after a few appearances for the Yankees, he complained about not being able to throw a curveball, that the curveball was a pitch that really hurt him.
This ball is a bullet and into the first row or so of the seats.
He said the breaking ball was the pitch that really gave him problems because of the bone spur. But again, when we talked to Joe Torre in the series against Texas, he said he was healthy and he said he was ready to pitch.
Well, I was impressed, as I said, this is the guy that you've been telling us about. He threw 2 good fastballs. But look, I mean, it's easy, I guess, for me to think about it up here, but when you're down there, you're thinking, well, maybe I can fool him. And that's probably what they tried to do.
The 0-2 pitch. Ripken with the dive, can't get it. A 2-out single for Charlie Hayes.
Now, this is not a bad piece of hitting by Charlie Hayes. This pitch is down. That's not a bad pitch at all. Goes down and gets it and hits it past a diving Cal Ripken. Nice piece of hitting there by Charlie Hayes. Not a bad pitch at all by Tarasco. This is Pat Dobson, the Oriole pitching coach, coming out now to talk with Tarasco.
Dobson, one of those 4 20-game winners for the 1971 pennant-winning Orioles. Along with Dave McNally, Mike Cuellar, and Jim Palmer. 4 20-game winners on one team. Armando Benitez. They haven't decided on a change yet. Girardi is the scheduled hitter. And it looks like they're just discussing how they should pitch to him. Dobson departs. They'll stick with Tarasco. And tomorrow night, we're back with Game 3, this time from Camden Yards, 8 Eastern. 5 Pacific, of course, as you all know. 7 Central, 6 Mountain. 9 Atlantic time. If you're satelliting out of Europe, figure it out for yourself.
Go on.
Girardi grounded out, triple, single. He hit only 2 home runs this year. He's the tying run at the plate in a 5-3 game in the bottom of the 8th. Hayes at first with 2 down. Jeter at the top of the order on deck. One and one.
Good fastball here to straighten him up. He threw him a pitch away, and he knows Girardi goes out there on the balls that move away from him. Girardi hits the ball back through the middle and to right side, so he doesn't want him leaning out there. You see, he started to lean out there.
Center field, Brady Anderson drifting into right center, calling Bonilla off and making the catch. The Yankees are down to their last 3 outs. Orioles coming up at the top of the 9th when we come back. NBC's coverage of today and tonight's American League Championship Series is brought to you by Nissan. We remind you that life is a journey. Enjoy the ride. By Wendy's and the new bigger, plumper grilled chicken breast filet sandwich. Try one today. By JCPenney, celebrating 94 years of serving you. And by Gatorade Thirst Quencher, because every athlete has the right to be quenched. Life is a sport. Drink it up. Lloyd, the left-hander, back to work in the top of the 9th. Rafael Palmeiro whose 2-run homer his last time up in the 7th snapped a 2-all tie. The Yankees crept back to within 1 with a run in the bottom half of that inning. But the Orioles got some breathing room on the Alomar sacrifice fly in the top of the 8th. It's 5-3 as they bat in the 9th. Leyritz stays in the game after pinch hitting for O'Neill. Leyritz is playing right field, which accomplishes a couple of things. Joe Torre doesn't have to use an extra reserve, and he keeps 2 catchers in the game just in case the game should go to extra innings and something should happen to Girardi, because he has no other reserve catcher. Oh, 0-2 to Palmeiro. Just missed.
And here again is one of the situations where Lloyd was used more often than not by Phil Goddard in Milwaukee. Strictly against left-handers and occasionally a right-hander. But that breaking ball.
Here comes Martinez in to glove it and take it himself. One first baseman retires the other. The Orioles have officially filed their protest of yesterday's game. Let's go to Jim Gray with the details. Jim?
All right, Bob, they have indeed filed that protest. It got over to Gene Budig and to Bud Selig a couple of hours ago. Within the 24-hour frame, they paid the fee. The basic protest states, it cites a very small rule, section 3.11 in the rule book, and that rule states that an umpire will not change his opinion based on any decision of the grounds was not correct, whether the ball was batted fair or foul, safe or out, and no decision rendered by him shall be reversed except that he be convinced that he is in violation of one of the rules. And they go on to say that to Mr. Garcia's credit, he has become convinced that his initial conclusion was erroneous. Now, Dr. Budig will look at it tonight with his attorneys, and they hope to get back, because of the shortness of this series, to them within a day or two. Bob?
Luckily, the Orioles owner, Peter Angelos, is a labor lawyer, because you might have to take that to Felix Frankfurter to have it deciphered.
Well, the only problem is he was shown replays to say that he was wrong, and replays aren't a part of the game.
Well, there is no way, even though Rich Garcia missed the call, there is no way this protest is going to be upheld. It was unfair to the Orioles, but you know it's going to stand.
It's okay. We'll do a game again tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Do game 1 over again, huh?
Bonilla swinging on the 3-0 pitch and fouling it off. It's a good idea that they file a protest, just to get their point of view out there, just to make it official. They ask in the protest, by the way, that the game be picked up from the point of the disputed play. And there is Peter Angelos, who runs the Baltimore Orioles. One thing should be clear. The brief celebrity of young Jeff Maier aside, the most famous denizen of the right field seats at Yankee Stadium since Sal Durante caught Roger Maris's 61st home run ball 35 years ago. That aside, as Bonilla, after being ahead 3-0, goes down on strikes, the 4th time he is struck out today. He walked and then struck out 4 straight times. One thing ought to be clear, and we've seen it a few times today with balls down the left field line. This is very simple. If the ball is on the field, no matter how much you want a souvenir, don't reach out and touch it. Exit Lloyd, enter Weathers with 2 out on the 9th. And we'll be right back. George Steinbrenner facing the prospect of the short trip down to Baltimore, with just a split in the first 2 games at home and the next 3 scheduled for Camden Yards. David Weathers out of the bullpen, trying to take care of Ripken and send it to the bottom of the 9th as a 2-run game. 5-3 Baltimore. Cal is 2 for 4. Has a pair of singles. Drove in over 100 runs for the season and had 26 homers. In the bottom of the 9th, Pettit, the Game 1 starter, well fortified against the elements. And Dwight Gooden, who's just a spectator in the postseason, not on the active roster. In the bottom of the ninth, Jeter, Raines, and Bernie Williams will be the New York hitters. Weathers gets ahead 1-2. And can't finish Ripken, at least not just yet. Even though they were seething about what happened yesterday, if Baltimore gets out of here with a split and they go home for the next 3, they've got to be reasonably happy with that. Roll to short. Jeter takes care of Ripken. On to the bottom of the ninth with the Yanks down by 2. Davey Johnson with some changes as we move to the bottom of the ninth. He'll ask Randy Myers to close it. And after Bobby Bonilla hit in the top of the ninth, striking out for the 4th time tonight, Tony Tarasco comes back into the game, back to patrol right field, hoping for a less eventful inning than what greeted him yesterday. And another reminder, all new must-see TV coming up. New episodes of Friends, The Single Guys, Seinfeld, Suddenly Susan, and ER. That lineup is America's favorite night of television, NBC Thursday. Unless the Yankees force extra innings, this is a 9-inning game that's verging on 4 hours in duration. Myers, the loser last night on the homer by Williams, starts Jeter with a strike. If Jeter or Raines can get aboard, then Williams would be the tying run at the plate against Myers.
Well, as you said earlier, Bob, all of the Yankees' postseason wins have come when they were behind in the game.
Team with 10 hits, but 2 of the Orioles' 10 were home runs, each with a man on. Zeal in the 3rd, that erased a 2-0 Yankee lead. Palmeiro in the 7th, that snapped a 2-all tie. It's 5-3 now. The 1-1 pitch to Jeter. 1-2 to the rookie. He singled his first time up. Since then, he's flied out and struck out twice. He hit .314 for the season. Two and two, and were it not for Alex Rodriguez up in the great Northwest, they'd be talking about Jeter perhaps as the shortstop of the future in the American League.
Oh, yeah?
Here's a guy who could, in theory, have a Hall of Fame career and never start in the All-Star game. If he stays in the same league as Rodriguez. Toward the hole, a base hit.
The one thing you try to do if you're trailing in the late innings is try to bring the tying run to the plate. And this is what Derek Jeter does for the Yankees here. He brings the tying run to the plate. That's all you can ask. Whether you win the game or lose the game, you want to have that shot. And now they have the opportunity. Good hitting here. Fastball out over the plate. He loves the ball out over the plate, and he goes the other way with it. It's tough to teach a lot of young hitters to do that, but both he and Alex Rodriguez are capable of going the other way on pitches.
Now it's Raines. Last Friday, Game 3 of the Division Series in Texas. Jeter and Raines opened the ninth with big hits. The Yankees trailed them by 1. Here they're down by 2. They scored 2 in that ninth inning and won the game. to take a 2-1 lead in the series. Here they need a couple just to stay alive in game 2. There's the Oriole bullpen. Arthur Rhodes, the left-hander. Armando Benitez, who was up earlier, the hard-throwing right-hander. Both these guys throw in the 90s.
And they may want to force Bernie Williams to hit from the left side, and if Tim Raines gets on base.
Not a bad idea considering how devastating he's been when swinging right-handed. There's strike 2 as Myers gets ahead of Raines.
He's thrown Raines 2 breaking balls here and gotten them both over. One was knee-high breaking ball. This one looks about middle of the plate almost. Good pitch there by Myers. Take a look. Ball splits the middle of the plate. But he fooled him. He was looking for a fastball, obviously, and he got a breaking ball.
One and 2 to Raines. He's 1 for 3 with a walk. Paul O'Neill out of the game after Leyritz hit for him. And that's out of play.
And again, Randy Myers staying with breaking stuff here on Timmy Raines. Another one of those guys that's got that rider, that tailing fastball, run down and away, and not ashamed at all to come inside. Davey Johnson with a chance to win. Joe Torre down by a pair.
Two and 2.
I still think every once in a while you got to show a hitter something different instead of away. Whether you throw a breaking ball down and in or a high inside fastball, something to get him off the plate. I mean, something to get him from leaning out over the plate against you all the time.
Raines did not hit a home run from the right side this year. All 9 of his home runs came left-handed.
Full count. Well, how daring do you want to be to stay out of the double play even though you're down 2?
Well, this one is awfully close on the outside. I'm surprised Raines didn't have a hack at that. I'll tell you what, I think he got a break there. I really do. And again, a good call by Dale Scott. Very, very close pitch.
Raines was behind in the count 0-2. He's hung in and stretched it out full. Jeter at first. Not going. And a swing and a miss rather than a tip. Raines was contending that he tipped it and Hoyles didn't hold it. And Torre will come out to plead that case. But Dale Scott says no, he just missed it, and since first base was occupied, Raines can't run on the play.
Well, let's take a look and see if he gets a piece of this. It's a breaking ball. You can't really tell. I couldn't see the trajectory of the ball change. It's a breaking ball, so it's going down a little bit anyway. And Dale Scott says he does not touch it. It appears that he misses it, but, you know, it's very difficult to tell once this is that close.
No real reaction from Chris Hoyles either because of the runner at first. And it's a moot point. I mean, if he swings and misses, forget about it. It's a strikeout, or even if he foul tipped it, which he didn't. Raines contending he did. It really didn't look like it after you looked at it 2 or 3 times. Normally in slow motion, you see that ball, after it's tipped a little bit, it'll drive right straight down. Maybe even off the heel of the catcher's glove. Not that time.
Well, maybe he was just trying to steal one since it popped out of Hoyle's glove. Makes Scott believe that's what happened. Now Williams. The last pitch Myers threw him. He hit a mile to end the game in the 11th. Here he takes ball one.
Myers left the breaking ball out over the plate in last night's ball game, up a little bit. If he throws him a breaking ball as he did there, he's going to make sure he gets it down.
Two home run threats with a tying run at the plate. Williams and then Fielder. One out of the ninth. A called strike, 1-1.
And it's not to say that Bernie Williams can't get one out of this ballpark in right field either. Anything out of way, I mean, he can hit it and hit it deep enough to right, carry the fence out there, even in the power alleys.
Against Wells today, he singled twice, walked and struck out. Now facing Myers. Inside 2-1. And that one's down low, 3-1.
Well, Cecil Fielder's on deck.
So how risky is this pitch?
It's very risky because I don't think you want to put the tying run on and bring the winning run to the plate.
Now you got to go after him here in this situation. As you said, Joe, to bring Fielder up there representing the winning run. I mean, if Williams hits one against you, the game is tied. It's a tie ball game. Put him on and bring the other guy and he does it, it's over.
The 3-1. He walks him.
Well, Joe Torre couldn't ask for anything more. He's got the winning run up there now. Tying runs on. And Cecil Fielder, who's delivered a couple of times in postseason with key base hits. And Randy Myers may not face him. Benitez and Arthur Rhodes both are ready. And Davey Johnson makes the change here.
Here comes Armando Benitez. And here comes the commercial break. It's taken more than 4 hours to reach this point. The tying runs on base. The winning run at the plate. In the person of Cecil Fielder. Against Armando Benitez. It was Benitez who gave up the disputed home run to Derek Jeter yesterday. And he raced all the way out there to right field to argue the call and in fact bumped Rich Garcia. That was kind of overlooked in all the hubbub. Fielder hit 39 home runs this year between Detroit and New York. He obviously is not speedy. He hit into 18 double plays. He could end it either way with one swing.
Well, the one thing that's important is for Bernie Williams at first base, because they're not holding him on, to get a big lead and make sure he takes out somebody at second base on a ground ball. That's his only job right now, to break up a double play on anything hit on the ground.
The 1-0 pitch. Inside 2-0. Tino Martinez on deck.
Well, he's trying to overpower Fielder, and they want the ball in, but not that far in. But now he's in a situation, because he misses with this fastball. Watch it, tails in even more. Under Fielder's hands is where you want to throw the ball, but on the inside part of the plate. Now he has to come one-on-one fastball to Cecil Fielder.
Fielder's 1 for 4. A single his last time up. There's a strike. Cecil grounded into a double play with a run scoring back in the first inning.
Ernie Williams at first. I was going to say too, Joe, with Palmeiro playing behind him, and again, you're talking about the big lead. In case he gets a chance to break up a double play, you got to be careful there too, and look for a throw from Hoyles.
Here it comes on 2-1, and the count levels. Well, you take a look at Benitez when he just humps up to throw one, puffing those cheeks out, putting every ounce of energy into it. He isn't here to finesse you.
No.
And again, Hoyles may have wanted a breaking ball here, maybe a slider. I think Benitez wants to throw a fastball. Let's see what he goes here. Breaking ball. Yep. Slider away. That's the pitch that Cecil Fielder hit for a base hit earlier when he knocked in a run. Here it is one more time. This is a breaking ball, a little slider. You can see the spin on it. Down low and away. Cecil Fielder trying to pull it and got a piece of it.
Another 2-2 pitch. And another tap foul.
Well, Cecil's doing a good job of spoiling those pitches. That was a nasty one there. That one was down and away. This pitch is down and away. Difficult pitch, but Cecil spoils it. Look, watch the location of this pitch. I mean, that is just, actually, you have to give Cecil credit. He fouled it off. Not much else he could do. He fouled pitches off and hope for him to make a mistake.
His backside wasn't in there too good. His mind was saying stay in there, but...
And another foul ball. The outfield, of course, is deep. The Orioles with a 2-run lead. The Yankees with lots of speed on the bases. Jeter, who's less important at second. Williams, who's very important at first. If a ball is hit in the gap, Williams has a pretty good chance of scoring. On a single to center or right, he has a pretty good chance of making it to third with only one out. On a ground ball, he's got a pretty good chance of getting down to second to break up a potential double play. Another 2-2 pitch. In the air to shallow right, down the line, foul territory in the seats.
Well, we've seen Cecil Fielder throughout this postseason stuff consistently give himself up and try to go to right field on a pitch that's really tough to handle for him. Hit the big home run against Texas, and then a couple of big base hits to right field, to the opposite field.
It's the second time that Hoyles has gone out to talk to the Benitez, and every pitch has been away. I think Hoyles wants to find out if he feels comfortable enough to come inside with a fastball.
Once more. In the air, wide of first. Does Palmeiro have room? He reaches in and does. Right along that barrier. And this time, it was the first base umpire, Mike Riley, hoping, please, let's not have it be anywhere near anybody who can reach in and get in the way of this.
Now, this fan down along the first baseline. Watch this fan. He gives Palmeiro a shove. Watch this.
It was over by the camera well, though.
Right.
Well, he threw a fastball in, and Cecil was late on it. That's the pitch that I think Hoyles wanted him to throw earlier in the count, but he wasn't comfortable doing it, but I think he talked him into it. Fastball in was the right pitch for that situation.
So now it's up to Tino Martinez. Having an unproductive postseason so far. 117 RBIs, though, during the regular year. 0 for 3 and hit by a pitch in this game. Won a 15-inning game in Baltimore earlier this year with a grand slam at Camden Yards.
Now definitely with power. Here's a guy, Benitez. Great fastball. Just sit and go for it here.
Well, he's only had 3 at-bats against Benitez, meaning Martinez, and he has had 2 base hits. He's 2 for 3.
If it's Duncan, it's a different story who's due next, but this guy's got power. Got it, air it out.
2-0. Mariano Duncan on deck. Two out, 2 on. A 2-run lead in the bottom of the 9th. And a 2-0 pitch coming. Swinging a fly ball to right. Might have had a pitch he could do something with, but he didn't get it. And Tarasco does. So Tarasco, in the center of controversy last night, squeezes the final out in what was, by our calculations, the longest 9-inning game by time in postseason history. Division Series, LCS, World Series. This game lasted 4 hours and 16 minutes. The previous longest one was 4 hours and 14 minutes. That was Game 4 of the '93 World Series, which Toronto won over Philadelphia 15-14. Consider the pace of this game, only 5-3, and it took 4 hours and 16 minutes to reach a conclusion. Well, tonight's Chevrolet player of the game is, how about David Wells?
I go along with that, absolutely.
Pitched 6 2/3, and he was at his best when the game was on the line, when the Yankees were threatening. Allowed 8 hits and 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, 5 of them in clutch situations. He's the winner. Jeff Nelson out of the bullpen is the loser. The save goes to Armando Benitez. Homers by Zeal and Palmeiro for the Orioles. They come out of New York with a split, and the next 3 are in Baltimore beginning tomorrow.